Thank you, buddy. All right. I think we got it all worked out as best that we can. Our message today is going to be on marriage. If you got a perfect marriage, I got anything for you guys today. You can just take the day, go out with your wife and enjoy that perfect marriage. Just go. Yeah. Can you? Don't be lying in church, man. Lightning bolt's gonna burn its way through my RV to get you, man. Don't do that in here. Ananias and Sapphira, remember, man, just drop dead right. Danny's like, I gotta dig another hole. Like, God, next time you strike someone dead in our church, open up the earth. Like, what is it with Cora, swallow him up, bury him yourself, God. That was easier. Anyway, just kidding. But yeah, this is gonna be a message on marriage, and we'll lift up a quick prayer for us, and then we're gonna jump in. Lord, I ask for the wisdom, the moment by moment intuition to be able to follow your heart on this message. I know it's supposed to hit husbands and wives on different levels in different ways, and I don't want to be um, stuck in one area of what you're revealing and miss an area that somebody else needs just because I can't relate to it perfectly from my position or whatever. So God, I just pray that I would be following your spirit, that we all would be in listening, God, that our hearts would be open, that you would inspire us to write down the information we need to write down in our notes, even if it doesn't tickle us, even if it doesn't hit us in our senses and our desires and the way we would traditionally, oh, that's good, I'm going to write it down. God, that if it's something that's going to be useful for us in the week, we're not really ready to recognize it yet. Still, God, tap on us to write it down, so that we'll have the information at hand's reach that we need. And God, I just pray that you would bless this time, that you would bless this message, that you bless everybody who's going to be listening to this thing, and that you bless our marriages, God. You bless the marriage of everybody who's stepping up today to learn more about how you want us to do it. That is a noble and good desire. And God, I pray that you would bless us for following that and listening in obedience to your call. God, bless this time. We ask that you would set this place apart for your Holy Spirit, that you protect us from distractions and technical difficulties and, bubbly stomachs or anything that could, tiredness or small bladders or anything that would interfere with our ability to catch the part of this message that we personally need to have. And we would just be spiritual men and women following the Spirit when it comes to digesting this message so we don't miss your blessing. We pray this all in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you for the sacrifice you make for us. Thank you for the relationships you've given us, especially our relationship with the Father through you. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. All right, our message today is a message on marriage. Joking around saying if you have a perfect marriage, you don't need to hear this. It would actually be true, though, because mainly we're going to be talking about sort of the boundaries in marriage and where problems form in a marriage. And it's kind of crazy because, I wouldn't say that I have a huge amount of experience with like marriage counseling, but unofficially, officially, I've done a little bit. And I think that just kind of goes with the territory. If you're doing ministry, unless you're in a monastery or something, if you have a flock that's married, people are going to be talking to you about marriage. You're going to be praying about marriage. If you're married, you're definitely going to be praying about marriage. And it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for people to come up to you and be like, hey, me and my wife are struggling. My husband and I are struggling. Would you sit down with us and talk us through this stuff? And the patterns become apparent pretty quickly. And I think the biggest pattern, overarching pattern that you see today, and it's just sort of a symptom of our times, is that people walk into marriage. It's not even that they're completely unprepared. That's true. but in their mind, it's almost like they think they are prepared, that there is no preparation. Like, it's almost like, yeah, you go into marriage and it's a mystery. Like, who knows what this thing is? And you dive into and you feel as prepared as anybody is or something. And it's like it's a mystery box or something. Okay, and we're gonna dive in, and there's a lot of like hubris. There's a lot of, I'm sure this is gonna work out because we were just joking about it. I'm sure my way is gonna work. I don't know why I would know how to do marriage. Like, I was raised around these marriages. Like, marriages in America are dumpster fires. Like, you weren't raised around good marriages. Um, if you had one that was kind of okay, you're an anomaly. But we're surrounded by terrible, terrible examples and terrible sort of propaganda uh, about what marriage is supposed to be. So the idea that you're going to roll off the assembly line and get hitched and you're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. But most of us do, right? We think I'm going to figure this out pretty quick. And even though it bears bad fruit from day one, like from the moment you get back from the honeymoon, there's problems. You go, but that's not because of how I'm doing it. That's just a shakedown issue. And we'll just wait and see. You'll see that I know what I'm doing. We'll see this. It'll come through eventually. And then you'll be like, dang, it's been 10 years? Man, why do we still have this problem? Why is this going on? Why is that going on? And in counseling, what will happen is people will come to counseling. And I want to be clear, you were more than welcome. Anybody hear me? You're more than welcome to come to me for counseling. It's going to sound a little bit negative. I'm trying to get to the heart, not talking about the actual idea of counseling. It's a good idea. But a lot of people, when they go to counseling, it's almost like you get the vibe that they decided to do this and they called you up and they're like, let's do counseling. Go, okay, Thursday. And then they show up on Thursday, and it's like, even on the drive over, they were looking at their wife and they're getting along good right now, because both of them are like, we don't really want to do this anymore. Like, and I think what happens is, it's like, you have problems in your marriage, and the problems because you're doing something wrong. It's that's what people say in the world is, what's the problem with marriage? If we took all the men and women in our church and separated them out, and we went and let the women talk for a while about frustrations in marriage, let the men talk about frustrations in marriage, and we went to the men and say, what's the problem with marriage? And go, well, the problem with marriage is someone decided to put women in there. That's the problem. All problems really come from just naturally who women are. So what can you do to fix? There's nothing we could do to fix it. There's nothing. It's what, can't live with them, can't live without them. You go over, the women say the same thing. They'll be like, well, the problem is really men. They're just kind of doofuses, and they're like little kids, and they're just like, this is the problem. And so there's no way to fix it. Because that's a ridiculous, because essentially what you're saying there is God was kind of an idiot when he invented marriage. It was a bad idea. Stupid to put men and women together like that. We're not built to do that. I don't know what the solution is. It's almost like they're thinking like, oh, men should be married, and we like, God should have invented gay marriage. This would have been the solution, because we would get and I was like, oh, he didn't do that. So, but that's kind of what we have in our minds. And you'll see it with people where it's like, even though it's abruptly obvious, like seriously obvious, where the problem has to be with how we're doing this on a day-to-day basis. We are not approaching this relationship right. We never figured out what the rules are. We don't understand what God's trying to do here at all. We just walked in with like kind of a little afterglow of what the world says marriage is, a little romantic fantasy or whatever, and we just strolled into this thing, and we're obviously doing it wrong. There's red flags. But what do most married people do in that situation? They ignore it. Day in and day out, they kind of ignore that this isn't working very well, and there's red flags all over. They go, it's not a big deal. Let's just pretend it'll work out. And then eventually it hits the boiling point, and they get in a fight. And I'm so unsatisfied. Why do you keep doing that? Why are you always doing that? And they blow up. And then it resets, and they do the whole pattern over again. They wake up the next day and let's just deal with it. Whatever. And they just eat the bad fruit and go, oh, it's not, whatever. I guess this is just how it is. And they accept the status quo. They accept what their crappy attempt at marriage is producing, which is crappy fruit. And they just kind of flow with it, because it would cost me something to change. It would take effort, And it's not like rocket science kind of stuff. Like you could say, all right, why don't you take like any other area of your life? If you're like, man, I don't think we're doing our finances right, you could go like, well, we'll just take every verse in the New Testament that talks about how to handle money, and we'll sit down as a couple and we'll read them together. And I'll say, hey, babe, what do you think this verse on money means? And she'll tell me, and I'll go, this is what I think it might mean. And then we're going to lay it on the altar and say, God, we don't know anything. You tell us what it means. And slowly, we're going to see what God will tell us, and we'll apply it, and we'll give it a test and see what fruit it bears, and we'll slowly figure it out. It's like, it's not that hard for people who've struggled like 15, 20 years. They're like in marriage and like, man, our fruit's so terrible. We're so frustrated. I'm going, God, why have you given me this woman? And you see people struggling in counseling, talking about that stuff. And it's like, have you ever sat down with your wife and read the verses about marriage in the Bible? You'd be surprised how many guys are like, no, I've read them. I think she's read them, maybe. I don't know if she knows who Moses is, but I think she may have read it. It's like, maybe she hasn't. And actually sit down and read the verses and say, well, what do you think it means? And you both look for the and you go, okay, that's what you think. This is kind of how it sounds to my ear. And then you lay it down before God. You ask what God means, and you let him speak. And then the ultimate test is you try it out. And you know, if you're already doing it, it's bearing bad fruit. You go, well, our interpretation's not right. And you try it, you get open to hearing something else. You repent and you get open to hearing something else. And God speaks. And you step out and you try it. And if it bears good fruit, all of a sudden, I've never met anybody who's gotten anywhere in marriage. Nobody jumps into the deep end of what the Bible says about marriage. They ease in. They go, man, that seems like a crazy way to do it. But because we're forcing ourselves to look at what God says in black and white, like we can't avoid the fact God's saying to do it this way. And we're sitting there and we can't explain it away. It doesn't sound fun, but we can't explain away what this is saying. I need to lay down my life for you, and you need to submit to me. And these heavy things that we don't want to do. But you read it and you go, I don't know another way to interpret this that feels right in my heart. And I know we're kind of just ignoring it. Actually, it's bringing conviction as we read this verse. And your wife's getting convicted and you're getting convicted. And you go, well, maybe we'll just take one step. God is there a step and go, okay, do this. And you'll take one step. And all of a sudden the fruit comes in and you go, whoa. And you get this feeling, it's just starting to grow in your mind. Maybe God's way is actually better. Maybe God's ways. This is the hardest step of faith in every part of Christianity, is drinking down the idea that God's way might be better than my way. Like my way is the way, man. Like my way of doing things is good. It's the best. Like it's a strong article of faith in people that my will, no matter, I might have made up this decision 2 seconds ago in complete stupidity, but man, does it feel right because it was my idea. And to have somebody come in and God's like, you know, I invented marriage, you know, I created the whole thing and I've been handling it for thousands of years. And, you know, pretty much every good marriage is because of me. And pretty much every bad marriage is because people are disobeying me. But you think you got it, even though all your fruit's saying you don't. Interesting. You know, it's like God's like, interesting idea, you know, and it's silly. And it's a crazy thing because you'll have people come in for counseling and they'll approach counseling and it's almost like I get the sense that it was like they are getting frustrated and they're starting to get the sense that we're just on this thing. We're on this carousel ride. We just keep going around. We don't really care most of the time enough to change anything. And then eventually we get frustrated, we blow up and we accuse each other of, you're the problem. No, you're the problem. And then tomorrow we just go back to like, we don't actually care enough to fix this. Like it's not a big enough deal to actually apply discipline. It's enough of an issue that I'll blow up every once in a while. I'll get super pissed off and yell at you. And you'll roll your eyes and think I'm a jerk or something. But neither of us are actually motivated enough to actually put in a disciplined, unemotional, passionless discipline of we're going to change something and just stick with it until it bears fruit. And so you're stuck on this endless circle of like things not working. And so eventually I think people start throwing out marriage counseling to kind of take the high ground in the conversation. I think we need to get counseling. And it's like, oh, I'm still trying, even though honestly I'm not, because I'm going in the same pattern as you. We're both taking like, weeks off in this marriage where we're just rolling our eyes and going on and ignoring the problem and in between the fights. And now I'm in the fight and I don't have anything good to say. I'm not, it's all sounding fake at some point. Like, we're not really, what are we fighting about? Not about anything that we intend to change. And so at some point you're throwing out things that kind of make yourself sound like you are putting in an effort, or you're willing to put in an effort, or you think he's not going to say yes to the counseling. So if you say, yeah, we need counseling, forget that. And like, well, at least look at me. I got the moral high ground now. You'll see it. And so it's like people throw it out, and it's not like, it's almost like they didn't think it was the other person was going to say yes. And they go, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then they go, yeah, okay, I'm going to call him right now. Okay, call him. And then they call me and it was like, okay, let's sit down and do counseling. But then like, it's always like 2 days later or something. And they're like, oh, we're back in that place where we don't care enough to do anything. We were hot then, we were energized, and I can't stand this woman anymore. I need out, God. I need out of this thing. And then it's like 2 days later, and now I'm in the phase of, it's not worth me doing anything about it, I just want to go about my day and ignore it. And that's the issue. So you'll sit down, like, this is probably most of the counseling that I've done to one level or another, is you sit down and you just are talking about the last fight they had. They don't want to go into the root. They don't want to talk. They don't want to go, why is this fight even happening? And it ends up being something pretty shallow about how they could argue their last argument better. And because that's what they want. They want a simple solution. They go, got it, good, okay, I think we're done. I think we just fixed it. I think my marriage just got fixed. Thank you, bro, thank you. That's so much better. And so they can get out, because it's like instant regret. We signed up for this thing, and now that we're sitting there, we're both looking at each other. And it was strange when it was just the two of us. It was clear that our marriage was in trouble, that we have problems. We're yelling at each other. We're yelling at each other about it. But now that there's another person looking at our marriage, it just feels like we're on the same team, and the team is, we got this. We're actually doing really well. All of us, it's like pride goes before the fall, right? But pride gets up super quick, bro. Pride just bounces up. Oh, I'm all right. It's like when a person falls off a ramp, you're like, dude, did that guy just break his arm? He's like, oh, I'm okay. His like ankle's like broken, but no, I'm fine. Because the embarrassment's strong enough to overcome the pain. When you're by yourself fighting with your wife, you just linger in the pain, and there's, you're having your issues, and the whole thing's on. But when you bring somebody else in, when you bring God in, when you bring the church in, when you bring something in that says, okay, we could just do some work and fix this, all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, we're not that bad, bro. It's like, wait a minute, the other day you were like, God, why have you, this is a trap, you gave me the wrong woman or something. And, this man is terrible. It's like, well, you're saying, yeah, I mean, I was a little hot, but yeah, no, I think we're normal. I don't even think that was a big deal. And it's the delusionalness of something like that. We have to push ourselves to be so honest with this stuff, where we're really looking at it and seeing the pattern. Because a lot of times what happens is people go into counseling and then they get out as quickly as possible. And people do this with a lot of other counseling. I want to work on my childhood trauma. They get in and then they realize I want out, dude. I'm going to take a quick victory here. You know what? The other day I didn't blow up. Somebody yelled at me in traffic, and I just forgave him. And you know what? Thank you for counseling. And they're out. They want out. And the problem is they leave and they go, we've done marriage counseling before. It just doesn't work for us. What's the undertone of that? This thing was screwed from the start. There's something wrong with our marriage. It's not with what we're doing with it. We did everything we could to try to fix it. That's the message, right? So whose fault is it? Who invented marriage? God. Who called you to marry that girl or that guy? Women are listening to. God. You don't realize it, but you are engaging in a subtle, wordless blasphemy of what God's doing in your life. And it does affect you. It does affect your relationship with God. It affects the way you trust him. It affects the way you look at it. It affects the way she looks at it. It affects the way your spouse looks at it. And it's just not real. In most of those situations, I wish, and I might even do this next time someone does wedding, and probably talking people out of coming to get counseling from me. But if God wants you to, it can be a very good thing. But I think next time I have a marriage counseling, I'll make an agreement. When you leave, I'm going to grade you. I'm going to give you a grade on whether this absorbed and how much absorbed. And I'm not going to be like, oh, you decided you went out 2 minutes after you got here. And no, you don't get to say you did marriage counseling. You shopped marriage counseling. You did a walk around tour of marriage counseling. You didn't really do it. What did we talk? We talked about how you fight. We didn't even talk about why you fought. We didn't get to hard issues. We didn't talk about what marriage was. We're not talking about God's plan. We were just talking about one little fire because that's all you wanted to talk about. And there are times where the couple comes in the second day and they're trying to tell me how much it helped. And I go, okay, so what did we talk about last time? They can't even tell me what. They didn't even absorb it. The things that I said didn't even click. Like the wife's like, I don't remember anything that you said from last week, but you're telling me you're good. You're not good. You're in the same pattern you were before you showed up here, which is the fight's out. I've done my thing and I'm ready to go back into the status quo. You know what it's like? It's like those horrible ghettos, right? Those horrible ghettos. These people are living, they're smoking crack and they're drinking and all this stuff, and their lives are terrible, but they just keep going. And at some point, it hits this boiling point. There's some sort of trigger, and they look around like, this is life. And they start flipping cars over and burning down their own neighborhood, and they have a riot. And then the next day, they wake up and they go buy another beer and some crack, and they just go back to living it. And you just burn down your neighborhood. Did it help? No, but it felt like I let it out. The desperation, the quiet desperation of this isn't how God wants me to live my life, but I'm not willing to pay the price to make the change. And every once in a while, it's going to blow. That's what the devil wants you to do with it, is let it boil over. And why don't you burn down your house? Why don't you say something ugly to your wife? Why don't you scream at your kid? It's not going to fix anything. It's going to damage things more, but it lets you vent out that pressure. And then the next day, you're like, I don't have energy for this. I don't even care. And you go right into apathy, and then you're in a pattern. And then you come into the marriage counseling and you're not even willing to talk about that pattern. You're not even willing to see it. And I think sometimes that's what we need, is we need somebody to lay out the problems and say, here's the 4 big problems in marriage. I can guarantee you could pick, you don't even have, this is a wild thing to say. You don't even have to let the Holy Spirit point this out. You could just, I'm going to do that one and fix it. I guarantee your marriage would get better. But you would have to put in passionless, not emotion-based, passionless discipline. I'm just going to get up every day and make this a priority, that I'm going to do my marriage different in this way. And if we follow what God teaches, it will make your life better. It's even better if you let God pick what's most important. Say, no, focus on number 2 first. Focus on number 4 first. Focus on this angle of it first. And you let him fine tune it. It'll be even more effective. But I'll be bold enough to say you could just pick one at random and do it. And if you actually got it fixed, which God would have to come in there at that point because you can't fix it yourself. But if you were praying about it and you were applying what he teaches, saying, God, help me do this, it would make it better. But you know what? In most situations, it's just like marriage counseling. I can teach this stuff. But most people are going to go, yeah, I heard a message all about, I know that stuff. And they're going to look at it, but it didn't work. And the real answer is you didn't do the work. There's a difference between it didn't work and I didn't do the work. And what we have to recognize is a lot of times in marriage, someone can hand you the answer and you won't do it and you'll hide from why. And the best thing you could do is say, God, someone handed me an answer and I didn't work on it. Why didn't I do that? And let God peel it. Why didn't that work? And let him peel the onion, because sometimes what he'll reveal is it's not, we run from the revelation like it's going to reveal something terrible and something terminal, something fatal. But what it's going to unveil is you don't have any hope. You don't have any hope that's why you won't do any change in your marriage, because what's the point? Why do you have no hope? Because you have some erroneous false belief about yourself or your wife or marriage or God or life. There's some belief in there that's stuck in your craw that poisons your hope. And so you have no encouragement. You have no fire for change. You have no expectation that it's ever going to get better. And so your best at that point is to be a cover-up artist. We're going to make it look good to other people because we can't actually expect to fix it and actually make it good. Like, you sit down with people, if you said, would you rather have a marriage that's terrible but it fools the people around you into thinking that you're happily married and you're spiritual and all this, or would you rather get naked in front of everybody spiritually and you're just like, we have all these problems, and just horribly embarrassing, but it gets fixed, and in 2-3 years you have the marriage you were pretending to have, and you're not afraid of anybody seeing inside, and you're not even afraid about people talking about the past, because it's all testimony, it's all to the glory of God. On paper, it's obvious what the answer is. But if you don't have any hope that that second option can even occur, then it's automatically, we're going to cover up the sin and play that holier than thou with this. And that's what most people do in marriage. And they never diagnose it as a hope issue. They never look at it as saying, what's going on here? So even though I'm going to give you very practical advice today about marriage, I want you at the get-go to be looking at yourself and saying, how am I responding to this? Where's my hope? Am I hopeless? Because that, I think, is usually the deeper issue. You need to have actionable steps to figure it out. If you don't have something that you know will work, that's tested and proven, this will work, then you can't really struggle with your hopelessness and figure out, what is this? You have to have an action step that you're wrestling with to find it and talk about it with God and get it fixed. But that, a lot of times, if you have the action step but you don't have the right focus, you won't realize, it doesn't matter how perfectly correct of an answer God gives you for your problem. You don't have the heart to try. You will run away from it because you're afraid, because you're hopeless, because you're despairing in this area. And the only thing you're going to do is by facing that fear in the great contest of marriage, and you're just meeting with God over this action step, like, I'm fighting for this in my marriage, and this is coming out of me. There's just this voice, this is not going to work. I can't trust her for this. I can't trust him for this. He's going to fail me. He's not going to protect me. And all of a sudden you're going to connect with trauma in your past. And marriage is an incredible sacrament for purifying your heart for intimacy. It will purify your heart for intimacy with your spouse, but its ultimate purpose is it purifies your heart for intimacy with God. The trust issues that keep you from being close to your spouse are keeping you away from God. And that's why he gave you this person. And that's where you're going to wrestle it out on. So we're going to talk, I'm going to jump into this now. But I really wanted to throw that out, and I hope that I didn't make marriage counseling sound like a terrible idea. It's a great idea, especially if you need a little, what do we shoot at first? What help us, help. Maybe even you need a moderator. Can you keep this from every time we start talking about this, it gets too heated and there's too much injury and the emotion distracts, and we just need someone to cool it down and keep it logical and rational and, really do it. That being said, be open to what God's saying. Because a lot of times what people do is they want to go to a counselor and they go, this is what we need to work on in our marriage. And honestly, it isn't. If you think about how much of the New Testament talks about marriage, there's a little chunk in like every book a little bit. It's not a lot, 2 or 3 pages if you copy pasted it together. How much of that instruction about marriage is, this is what you do if you get in a fight? None of it. So it's like, is God the first priority in your marriage to come to you and say, you're in a fight? Well, this is what you do. No, a fight is a symptom. Fighting is a symptom that you don't understand what marriage is supposed to be, and you're not playing by the rules, and it's blowing up. Right? So what you probably need to do, probably your problem in your marriage, is you're always doing it your way. That's why you're wrestling with each other, because her way and your way are different ways. And nobody's looking to do it God's way, and that's the problem. And the answer is not for you to go to somebody else and say, this is what I think we need to work on, and this is what you need to fix, and do more of your way. This is how I think. What you should probably do is go to God, go to Scripture, and say, What are the priorities to you, God? And God's going to say, well, this is it. And stuff we don't want to pray about. We don't want to go into Ephesians and read about marriage and be like, okay, where do we differ from the model? And just focus on aligning it. But you know what? If you did, I bet you those fights would decrease and change in nature without you even directly conflicting with them and getting involved with them even sometimes. Like there are smart psychological things that are worth learning to help you have a smoother conversation, argument, discussion with your spouse. Absolutely. But they're not in the Bible because there's a more foundational solution that's going to pay off in the long run better, which is what understanding what God's doing in marriage and getting on board with how he's doing it. And so I would point that out to you. You counseling, all these things we try to do, they don't do anything unless we're showing up with our full heart with God. And a lot of times in marriage, people aren't, and they're just so used to gilding the lily, trying to make themselves look better than they really are, and not admitting like, I'm kind of hopeless. If I had known I would feel this way at the beginning, I would have definitely hesitated a lot harder on getting married. I had some, I was so lonely and it was so hard being single. I just assumed that this was going to be, the pie at the end of the rainbow here, and it was just going to be glory upon glory. And I didn't understand. I was signing up for a job and making a commitment and signing up to carry a cross. I didn't get that. I was saying it, I might have been preaching it, but I wasn't really absorbing it. And you need to process all that. So even though we're going to go through, I think this is rich with real answers for people, but you have to understand you could end up in a couple of months saying, yeah, I heard that sermon, it didn't help. And it's not because it doesn't work for you. It's because you have a motivational issue, which is really a belief issue. I don't really trust what God has given me. And because I don't really trust it, he can hand me the answer and I'm not going to really do it. I don't really trust it. I don't really think this can be fixed. I got some worldly opinion about marriage on me. I got my own opinion on marriage on me, and I'm not willing to. The basis of all change in the kingdom is what? I repent. I repent, which is what? It's a change of mind. It's you humbling your mind before God and saying, you tell me how this works. You tell me. I don't know. I think I know, but I'm humbling myself to say I'm wrong. I don't know how wrong I am, but I'm definitely wrong. Maybe 2%, maybe 100%, but I'm wrong on this. And you are completely accurate and true and correct on it. Pour your truth into me. I will not resist your voice. That's where everything starts when God's trying to heal us and change us and fix our problems and our issues. And we need to remember that when listening to a message like this. All right. Now, today we're going to be looking at 4 rules for marriage. I don't know how many of them we're going to cover. Let's see how far we can get. I don't want to bog us down too much, give us too much stuff, but it is deep, and marriage today is just not done very well. There's not a lot of good examples, and a lot of the training that you're essentially getting through your TV and through social media and through parents and grandparents and people around you is just so far off that, you shouldn't. I almost want to say you shouldn't feel bad. You got sabotaged from the get go. So don't be too hard on yourself. But it ends up everything you can talk about is there's 20 layers deep of how this could go wrong and how you could be doing this. And I'm trying not to be too exhaustive because every person's thing is gonna be slightly different. I can't possibly hope to cover everything in detail. But yeah, it's important. It's important that we are showing up with God on this. So the 4 things that I'm going to take us through are taken from a conversation that God had with Moses in Exodus. It wasn't a conversation about marriage, though. It was a conversation about God's covenant with his people. Now, you guys probably know God created marriage to symbolically represent the relationship that he wants the church to have with Christ, his people to have with him. That he is the bridegroom, we are the bride, and in a spiritual sense. Not physically, but in a spiritual sense. And that's why he created it as a symbol and as a sacrament to prepare us for that higher relationship. So Paul can say a bunch of stuff about marriage and then say, but I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about our relationship with Christ. And it helps us understand our relationship with God better. But it actually goes the other direction too. You could learn something in your marriage, and then God in your prayer closet goes, now go do that to your wife. You can see how I'm taking care of you right now. I'm being a husband to you right now. I'm being a husband over your soul. Now go be that kind of husband to your wife. You can't be sitting here and accepting one style of husband from me and then not be that style of husband towards your wife. If I'm showing you the right way, it's the right way. It's gotta be consistent. Otherwise it's hypocritical, right? So most of us have had that experience. But it's even true if we go back and we look at rules that God set out in the Old Testament that are very black and white boundaries, like, okay, Israel, don't violate this or you're going to blow up your marriage with God, with Yahweh, and I'm going to have to pour out plagues on your kingdom. Follow these rules to maintain our covenant and have very basic, broad strokes understandings of these are the boundaries of covenant, right? We can take that information into prayer and God can very easily graft that over in the marriage and say, yep, this is how this applies to this covenant. This is a relationship that people have never had before with their God. They've never experienced. So this is the covenant to have that. They don't understand it. So here are the rules to protect it. Over here is a relationship you never knew before you were married, being one flesh with your spouse. And in the same way, here's a covenant to protect it. And here's rules to help you navigate it because it's nothing that you know. It's different than any other relationship you've ever had. And so I've taken 4 rules from Moses and Exodus. I don't want to get, it's from the 10 Commandments. I don't want to get into breaking down that part and talking about what God meant to Israel. This is just going to bog us down. I'm just going to take the stuff that God was showing me directly how it applies to marriage. It's already sort of translated over. Take it with a grain of salt, of course, but I think the wisdom is going to be pretty evident here. Obviously, God's fingers are on it. As Jesus said, wisdom is proven right by her children, by her fruit. So I think it's going to be pretty obvious where this is coming from. We could go through all the exegesis of Exodus. It's just not really necessary, and it's going to take forever. So I'm just going to lay out these rules, and they're essentially the first 4 commandments out of the 10 commandments. If you looked at them as what are we doing to protect our relationship with God there, and then we're taking it over and saying, how would you do that in your marriage? How would you follow that same principle in your marriage? And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to run through them on a surface level, just list them, and then we're going to take them one by one, and again we'll see how deep we can go. The first rule I'm going to give out, and I'm kind of phrasing this so each rule has sort of a positive and a negative, a thou shalt not and a thou shalt, because it has 2 sides to it, and you got to do both. And it's almost impossible not to do both if you're really doing it. So here's the first one. Do not replace your spouse. Protect their place in your life. Do not replace your spouse. Protect their place. That would associate with have no other gods before me. What's God saying? He's saying, I have a place that I fulfill in your life as your God. Don't put anything else in my place. It doesn't just mean God, don't put anything in God's chair. The things that God's supposed to do in your life, don't let money fill that hole. Don't let success fill that hole. Don't idolatrize anything. Keep that space for God. That's what God said to Israel. In the same way, your spouse is supposed to fill a position in your life. If you are a man, your wife is supposed to fill a wife space in your life, and she's supposed to fill it, and nobody else is supposed to fill it. Nothing else is supposed to fill it. You're not supposed to cover for her and take over areas of her spot. That is her space, and she needs to fulfill it. And in the same way, if you're a wife looking at your husband has a role he's supposed to play in your life. There are things that he's responsible for. There are rewards that he is owed just for being there, just for showing up and saying yes to be your husband. He has rewards that go with that. There is a rest that goes with that. There is needs that God has said to him, these needs you cannot fulfill with anybody else but with your wife. Sex is the obvious one that we think of, but there are a lot of them where it's like, From now on, the only lawful way to fulfill that need is with your spouse. And there's a whole thing built out of it. And we are very mamby-pamby and weird nowadays about talking about roles in marriage. Why? Because there's no way to talk about it without making it a gender role, right? There's only two. Marriage is between a man and a woman. So if you're going to talk about roles in marriage, you are going to be talking about this is the man's role, this is the woman's role, and nobody wants to put fine lines on that since the feminist movement. But if you don't know what his job is, you're going to mess with it. And even if you don't have a clear idea of what it is, that doesn't mean you're not going to hurt him. You're not going to hurt your marriage. Same thing with her. You're going to hurt her. You're going to hurt the marriage, and you're not going to understand. You're going to understand it's hurt. You're going to understand I'm messing this thing up. I'm damaging her. I'm damaging this. You're just not going to really understand. I stepped onto something here somewhere. I just don't know where it was. I don't know exactly where I crossed the line. Why? Because I haven't drawn clear lines. God's drawn clear lines, but I won't study what they are. And I won't seriously talk about applying them in my marriage. And so how can you keep that your spouse's place if you're not clear about what that place is? This is what you're supposed to do in my life. And this is what I'm supposed to do in your life. If you can't speak intelligently about that, how can you protect it? You can't. You're going to violate it. It's not even going to be hard for Satan to tempt you into violating it because you're not even going to know you're trespassing on something. It's like with Israel. How easy, if they weren't given the 10 Commandments, how easy would it have been for Satan to say, you should make an idol? And they're not even breaking a rule. How easy would it be for them to do that? Yeah, you should go and sacrifice your firstborn son to Yahweh. He'll like that. And if they didn't know, if God didn't step in and say, this is a violation, they wouldn't know. They would just say, oh, okay. And so this is what's happening in our culture. People are stepping on landmines all the time in marriage because they think marriage is their thing to invent. And they don't realize God has set up a rule. And if you don't follow the owner's manual and you drive down the road and go, hey, I'm going to put diesel in my gas car, your car's going to die, man. It's going to blow up. You can't do that. You know what? I think I'm going to put some water in my gas tank, stretch it a little bit. I saw my mom do it with a jug of milk when I was a kid. Put a little water in my gas tank. Now I'm up to a half tank. That's great. And your car's going to die. You can't do whatever you want. God created it. He knows how it works. And the thing is, if we're honest, like I'm talking about serious Christians, they're serious in all these different areas of their life, but they're just not that serious about understanding God's view of marriage. They just aren't. And they might be all like grab onto one thing, submission or something, grab onto one piece and they got it like in lockjaw, but they're not serious about studying marriage in scripture, talking about it with their wife, or they're doing it on their own. Like, why are you studying this by yourself? You think you can fix this without including your spouse? It's not going to work. So, number one, don't replace your spouse, protect their place. Number two, don't replace intimacy with a placeholder. Face the facts in your relationship. This is sort of a thing that we do that leads us to not invest in a relationship, and it deceives us about the status of the relationship. So it's like normally in a relationship, you would go and I'm going to go hang out with Robert. I haven't hung out with Robert. And you would normally feel this is awkward. We haven't spent enough time together. Something slipped. There needs to be reinvestment. You know, if I want this relationship to work, if we want to be friends, I got to put in some work. I got to ask God what's going on. When did it get weird? I got to work on it. Same thing happens in a marriage where you walk into the room and you would normally recognize something's off here. But in marriage, people have a tendency to have placeholders they put in the place of intimacy so they don't recognize the intimacy's off. So it's like, what's up?
Can you read the title?
Reread
Yeah, I was finishing.
number 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't replace intimacy with a placeholder. Face facts would be the positive side of that one. The additive side. Feel free to jump out on that stuff if I shoot over something too fast. That's a great thing to do. And the problem with that thing, when you cover up something, and this would be like a really simple example of this would be something like at night, the kids go to bed, and this is kind of your time that you're going to be with your wife where there isn't a lot of distractions, and you just sit. We watch TV together, so it seems like we're spending time together, but we're on 2 separate couches with our phones and something in the background. and we're not really taught. Maybe we laugh about a meme together or something, and it gives the illusion that this relationship is healthy because we're hiding the awkwardness by maybe having a lot of habits and patterns, or we're really focused on the kids, or focused on the business. There's a lot of different that focused on ministry. There's a lot of placeholders you could make, and the identifying mark is, if I let God take these things away, I would have to face facts in my relationship that I'm not facing right now. If we went, and maybe it's one of those things where it's like we haven't had a date night in forever, and then you go on date night and it's super awkward. It's not usually awkward with your wife, but you're super awkward on a date night. Why? Because you don't know the placeholders in that place. You have placeholders at home. You know what to do to hide from the tension and the awkwardness of, we're not playfully in love right now. Like, we have let our intimacy slip into an unsavory place where we're a little bit strangers to each other. And that'll happen in a relationship if you're not investing right. And so placeholders are things that allow you to lie to yourself about your need to invest in your relationship. And the longer they're there, the more scary it is to move them, because you go, man, I have starved this relationship. And there's like obvious signs. Like, if you are very rare, I'm not like I said, you could be laughing about dumb stuff every once in a while. It's pretty, especially if there's a lot of stress. Break the stress, there's going to be laughter. But if you remember early on in your marriage, there was a lot of laughter and a lot of playfulness, where you're playful with each other. And there's a tendency that, I'm not saying that's always the case. You can have problems and have that. It's not a all clear sign. But if that's missing, there's a pretty good chance that you're hiding from damage in your marriage, and you're just covering it up with placeholder activities to avoid. If you're avoiding awkwardness with your wife, you're avoiding your problems. If you're avoiding awkwardness with your husband, you're avoiding your problems, and they're not going to go away. They're going to get worse. Number two, or excuse me, number three, this third one. Don't speak ill of your spouse. Speak according to what the Spirit says. Now, this is the argument when you say don't speak ill of your spouse. You go, well, I ain't going to lie. God doesn't want me to lie, right? You go, no, he doesn't. And guess what? He doesn't. All the times that God has talked to you about your wife or your husband, whatever, your spouse, whatever end of the spectrum you're on that one, whether you're the man or the woman in the relationship, when God talks to you about your spouse, he absolutely tells the truth. But the way he tells the truth is deeply respectful to who that person is in your relationship, in the kingdom of God, as a creation of God. And when you talk about your problems, or when you're talking about, it's very easy for that to get very negative and just to speak ill of somebody, right? And you need to make sure that you're essentially cribbing your information from God, and that when you speak of your spouse, you could say, I'm repeating what the Spirit has said. And that doesn't mean you should repeat everything the Spirit has said. Some of that stuff's private. You're not supposed to be airing it to everyone. But we tend to have this thing where I'm gonna go give someone a prayer request for my marriage, or I'm gonna vent a little bit, and then we end up speaking very ill of our spouse. And then what are they gonna bounce back at you the next time you have a problem? They're going to try to empathize with you, and they go, oh yeah, I know how he is, I know how she is. And now you have an echo chamber of, let's talk bad and think bad about my spouse that you have set up in your life. And sometimes you don't even say this stuff out loud, but you're thinking it in your head. All of that will change the image you have of your spouse, and you will walk into a situation embittered, and you will walk into a situation looking for problems and magnifying problems that aren't even really problems. And it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy that your wife is going to frustrate you, or that your husband's going to disappoint you. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're looking for it. You're setting it up for it because you expect it so much. And it's because you are not staying where God is. You're not sticking to what he has said. You are going off on a tangent. And you might be telling the truth as far as you know, but is it the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, by the help of God? Because that's what he's saying. It's balance. It's the whole thing. She's got struggles, but she's a jewel. He's got difficulties, but he's the strength I've provided for you in this relationship. There is balance there, and it will always lead your heart to invest in the marriage the way that God wants you to. You let the devil get in your ear, he'll just going to start out very reasonable and just a little one-sided. It's just a little focused on the negative instead of the positive, but he will work in that place to poison how you see your spouse. Nothing could be as effectively damaging as you constantly speaking ill of your spouse in your thoughts, out loud to other people. Eventually you're screaming it into her face, maybe in your anger. You're vomiting on that. All that is terrible. It's just not good. We got to, like Jesus said, you will be judged by the words you speak without thinking. You need to sit there and think about what you're going to say. If you're going to say anything even slightly negative, you need to be looking at God and saying, is this true, and am I supposed to say it? Because there are going to be times when you need to get real, talk to somebody about a frustration, talk to people about your worries, but you need to make sure you're holding God's hand and that this is a pure act, that this is not, an attack, even as indirectly as possible, an attack on your spouse. It's not supposed to be that. Number 4, this is the last one. This one is a long one. I tried to simmer this down into something smaller. This is it's a difficult idea to communicate. We don't think this way. But let me say it. Don't despise each other's rest. Instead, cultivate gratitude by encouraging your spouse to rest in the shade of your tree. I know that's a long one. That was like that blooper on The Office. Like, that's not the headline, that's the whole article. But let me explain this.
What?
Yeah.
Don't despise each other's rest.
But encourage each other to rest in the shade of your tree. Now, when the Israelites entered the promised land, God said, I want you to sit under the trees that other people have planted, because I've given you this land, and you're going to sit under a fig tree you didn't plant. You're going to sit in the. And what does he say? I want you to sit there. Why? Because I don't want you to think that's your fig tree. I don't want you to think you did it. And he didn't say, I want you to go out there and work on that fig tree, and that's how you're going to remember that you didn't do it. He said, I want you to sit under it, and I want you to look at everything that somebody else built and I gave to you. And what's God saying? It's part of the Sabbath idea. I want you to look around. I want you to rest, because it's in this rest that you're going to recognize my work. I created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th, you rest and you look at everything I brought to the table, and then you look for, okay, now I'm going to add to it. In marriage, you have to be able to rest in the shade of each other's work. That means that there are going to be times, this is an obvious example, when your wife's going to be doing the dishes and you're going to come in and lay on the couch. And if you lay on the couch and you worked a hard day, you sit there and she's doing the dishes or teaching the kids something, and you're going to have a moment. If she doesn't start nagging you, if she just leaves it alone and lets you rest in the shade of her work right then, you are going to look around and find gratitude growing in your heart as you see this rest is possible. This shade is provided by the fact that I have a wife who is working hard for this family. And there will be times when your wife will come out and sit on the porch with some lemonade in her hand. She just finished doing whatever, doing dishes or something, and she sits down and you're out there mowing the lawn or chopping trees down or cracking wood in half or something like that, and she's going to look at that and she's going to rest in the shade of your tree, and she's going to find gratitude developing in her heart as she thinks of all the things I get the rest right now because I don't have to chop the wood, I don't have to take out the garbage, I don't have to fix the leaky sink, I don't have to work on the car. There's all these things. See, if you have complementarian roles in your marriage, then you can rest in each other's work. You can rest in the shade of somebody else's work. And you go, thank God that I have a wife who does all these things for me. And she goes, thank God I have a man who does all these things for me. And you grow in gratitude. Now that you can only do that if it's a complementarian view. If there's her work and your work. That doesn't mean you can't help each other. But this is my responsibilities. These are your responsibilities. And for the most part, I do my job and you do your job. There's some stuff that crosses over, and you can ask for help if you get really swamped or something, but generally that's going to be the case. What happens nowadays is we have an egalitarian view, which is not from the Bible. And so we say there is one pool of work. It isn't two pools of work, the wife's work and the husband's work. And so it's possible for the husband to finish the work early today, and his wife's still finishing up stuff, and he can sit and rest in the shade and watch her finish her job and grow in gratitude. Or the other way around. She finishes first, he's still working, and man, he's burning the midnight oil in there. And she, oh, he's working on a sermon for our church or whatever, and she can see it and rest in the shade of that. That naturally happens if it's complementarian. God created me to do this, created you to do that. But if you live in a world where a woman can do everything a man can do and better, then there's only one pile of work. And that's not actually true in the situation. There's a bunch of examples we can use. But if it's one pool of work, then what happens? You come in and sit on the couch, she's doing the dishes. Get up and help me dry or something. What are you doing? And so, and that makes like on a level, it's like, yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair because this is our work, and I shouldn't be working alone ever. We should always. He shouldn't be resting while I'm still working. We can both rest when we're both done, and that's how it's going to work. But then what happens? You never have times when you sit in the shade of each other's work. You think you're going to respect what your wife does if you never have a moment when she's working and you're not, so you can see it? No, you're never going to. And she's never going to respect what you're doing either. Because if you're working, you're focused on what you're doing. You're not focused on what she's doing over here. So what you're actually doing in that situation is you're going and you're ripping the soil out of your marriage where gratitude and thankfulness is going to grow. For the sake of what? Help me! Help me! Get up off your lazy butt and help me! What are you doing? Get out and do this! And it's absolutely shooting people in the foot. The thing that people need to realize about marriage is either it's complementarian and we're a team. I have jobs, you have jobs, they're different jobs, and we work together for the same goal, or they're egalitarian and we're doing the same work equally well. And so what does it mean? Ultimately, it means somebody's redundant to one degree or another. You are not needed. And ultimately, it's competitive. And so there's going to be that. Egalitarian always creates competition. It sounds beautiful on paper. We're equal in every way, but that just means we're competing for the same resources. We have the same skill set. If you're egalitarian and you're in a job market with someone else, that's your competitor. If this guy works on this and you work on a completely different thing, you can be buddies. I can throw work your way, you can throw work my way. We're complementarian. I do sprinklers, you do fences. This is great. We'll throw work for each other. But if we're both working on the same job, we do the same exact, we're competition by definition. So if you walk into a marriage and you say there is no husband, there is no wife, there is just spouse, and we are just one job, then what ends? And it's not true. But then you get stupid things like the wife's getting up to take care of the baby, right? The baby's crying in the middle of the night. She gets up to put him to bed, and she's frustrated because you're asleep in bed. But the truth is, if you got up and tried to get back in bed, if he sees you, he's gonna wake up. It's got to be me to put him down. But at the same time, there's a psychosis of like, but I'm still irritated that you're resting when I'm working. It's not fair. And the thing you have to realize, you only think that because you're thinking in one pot. If you separated it out and you said there's his work and my work, and if you realize this is the moment when you get up to take care of the baby, your husband wakes up for a second and rolls over and he says, thank God there's a woman in my life who's taking care of our son. Unless he's thinking, man, she's going to freaking nag me to death in the morning for this. Then he doesn't see it. That's what happens. We think we're doing something good. The fruit is obviously bad. But what are we doing? We are ripping out the soil of gratitude out of our marriage. Is that going to be good? If you never recognize what you do for each other, you're never grateful for what you do for each other. No, at some point you'll go, it was better being single than this. And then you're going to get divorced. And then you're going to be like, man, single sucks a lot more than I remembered. It was good when I was married. Why did I never see that? Why? Because you're nagging at each other all the time. And you never gave each other a second to rest in each other's shade and recognize what you're doing for each other. It's an important thing. That's why the Sabbath was important for God. That's why the Sabbath's important in marriage. because that's when you're going to sit back and realize what that person, what God is doing for you, what your spouse is doing for you. If you don't take the time, you won't recognize it, and you can't make that a chore. You're not going to be grateful if there's a chore while you're working today. Try to remember what your wife's doing for you. It won't work. But if you rest and you're like, I can rest right now because that job is no longer mine. When I was single, that was my job. But now I'm married, it's not my job. It's my spouse's job. Thank God for marriage. And that's where you're going to find that gratitude growing. At least you have the option for it. You don't have the option if you tear it out. All right, so let's hit these one by one. This first one, I have a ton of material on it. We might not make it that far into this stuff. We might just do an overview and dig through the first one or two. The first one is, again, don't replace your spouse. Instead, protect their place in your marriage. I think the simplest way to understand marriage and the covenant of marriage is this. God created you with needs. He didn't have to do that. I don't know if you ever thought about that. He could have created you perfectly content and fulfilled, but he created you with all kinds of needs. You got to breathe. You got to suck substance from outside of you into your body like every second, like all the time, or you'll die. You need water. You're going to get thirsty, and no, there's nothing you can do to get rid of your thirst. You got to take something outside of you, water, and put it in your body to get rid of that thirst. You're going to get hungry, and there's no way you can convince yourself not to be hungry. The only way to satisfy that need is you're going to have to take something outside of yourself, food. You're going to have to eat it. And there's 100 of those. God created you needing things. This is why we want to be independent, but God designed you dependent on like a billion things. And ultimately, they all have their source in him. God created you to be dependent upon him. That's the relationship. And one day, that's pretty much going to be the truth. When we're in heaven, God's going to wipe away every tear. There's not going to be any marriage or giving in marriage. Why? Because we're going to be in that primal relationship with God. It's going to be so overwhelming. We're not going to have much else that we're going to want to invest in. We'll have friends. We have these people that are with us, but we're all going, it's like we're in a movie theater enjoying a movie together. The focus is the movie, not each other, but we enjoy it more because we're together. So there's going to be a time when God fulfills most of our needs directly, but it's not this time. Right now, God fulfills a whole bunch of our needs indirectly through other people, through other situations. God, you could go, God, I'm hungry. I'm so hungry, God. Take my hunger away. Put food, put energy directly into my mitochondria so that I'm, you could pray for that, but God's probably going to say, pick up that plate of food and eat it. I gave you food. That's what he's going to do. And this is the situation primarily in marriage. Technically, God could fulfill all the needs that you're going to get fulfilled in marriage. But if God has called you to be married, he has essentially said, I will not fulfill these needs in any other way. I'm giving you your spouse, and I'm going to make it unlawful for you to fulfill your needs in any other way. Those needs within the wheelhouse of what she's called to be or what he's called to be in your life, that's the lawful way to fulfill this need. And there's no other. The most obvious example would be sex, right? God says, you need orgasms. If you don't have orgasms regularly, you become kind of a jerk. You get all stressed out, and you're kind of a jerk. And like if you're called to celibacy, God's going to will supernaturally help you overcome all the burdens of that. He'll take away the hunger, right? Supernaturally. Like if you're on a fast, God, take away my hunger. He's not going to point you to a bagel. He's going to help you because he's called you to fast. And if he called you to be celibate for a season of your life or for your whole life, he's going to help you through that fast. But if he called you to be married, what's he going to do? He's going to say, I have given you this person for orgasms. You can't have orgasms with it. You can't have them by yourself. You can't have them with other people. It's them. That's it. It's the only lawful way for you to fulfill this need. You understand that? Pretty simple concept, right? But here's the thing. Trust is the number one ingredient in that situation. You have to trust somebody to bring your need to them. You have to trust God in this situation overall, that he knows what he's doing. Otherwise, you're going to be coming to God and say, God, this fast is not working. Can't let me eat the bagel. The bagel's the right way to handle the hunger thing. The fast is not working. I need to eat the bagel. And what is it? I don't trust that you know what you're doing when you called me to this. You called me to this woman. You called me to this. I think I should be sleeping with lots of people. I think I should be, looking at pornography. I think I should do this. I think I should do that. What? I don't trust God's way of doing things. And to some degree, you're sitting here, you're married, you have trusted God to some degree to say, no, sex out there in the unlawful way, orgasms out there in the unlawful way, whether it's masturbation or sleeping around, it's bad. It's not good. It hurts me. It's a curse. It's been twisted into something bad. And you've accepted this is good. The marriage, yeah, okay, yes. But there is a fundamental trust when you have a need, especially when God says, this is the only way for it to be fulfilled is this person. The only way. You don't have two options. You don't have three options. You know how many people in marriage will develop a trust issue and then they try to somehow get rid of the need because it accentuates that. So they go in to have, hey baby, let's get busy, and then she shoots him down and hits some sort of injury, and so he goes off and he looks at pornography. Even maybe there's other issues at play there. I'm not saying that's the whole reason, but part of the reason is now I have two options. I don't need you that bad. You don't have that over me anymore because I don't really trust you to hold me in this vulnerable place where I need you like that. You could hold it over me. You could go sleep on the couch. You don't get any until I get what I want. If there's a manipulation like that, it's not surprising to find later on in the marriage these people aren't sleeping together at all. They're out. That's not unusual at all. But I'm using that most obvious example. There are 100 areas in our life where God has said, you are not going to have lawful companionship outside of this. You want to have a female friendship, this is your one. This with your wife, that's it. Nothing else is lawful for you. There's going to be a bunch of areas where in your life this is the fulfillment. This is what is needed, and you can only take this need to this person, but there is an inherent issue of trust there. Do I trust this person to care? If my need is not going to get fulfilled if they drop the ball, do I trust this person to be in control of the sole source of this need? It's scary. It's the same thing that happens with God and man, right? Because God will say, Danny, give up television. I'll fulfill you. And he goes, I know you can do it, but do I trust you to do it when I want you to do it the way I trust this TV to turn on when I click the button? That's the issue. Do I trust God enough to let him be the sole source of that fulfillment and not have a side piece that can kind of do it a little bit for me on the end? It's the same thing in a marriage. Think about it this way. What if Danny had to hire an employee, right? But he had to do until death do us part as part of the employee job. I can never fire you. I can never forsake you. I eternally hire you onto my business. And he hires somebody, and very quickly he realizes, I can't trust this dude. He gets behind a mower and everything breaks. Rocks fly through windows. Something gets set on fire. Client calls and says, someone's gotten drunk and passed out on my front lawn with no pants, and it's your guy. And he's just like, he's a liability, right? I don't trust this. What do you do if you can't fire a guy? What do you do if you can't divorce somebody? What you do is you take their job description and you start taking pieces of it off and giving it to somebody else. You don't mow lawns anymore, Pete. Jerry's going to mow the lawns from now on. Kicking too many rocks up. Pretty said, no, you can't edge either. Jacked it up last time. I'm giving it to somebody. I'm going to do it. No, I got it. Eventually you go, you know what, Pete? We really need some guy to just sit in the truck. Can you sit in the truck, Pete? Just sitting there. And then pretty soon, you know what? You're using too much AC. Why don't you go home, Pete? We'll call you for consults. that we never call you on because you're retarded and you don't, why would I consult you for anything? And then what happens when you've basically gelded and hollowed out the whole job that that person's supposed to have in your business? Well, then you're paying, what the hell am I paying this guy for? And so you figure out how you can, what is the legal thing I have to pay him, and how much can I take out of this? Can I nickel and dime some of my money back from this guy? And you basically at some point you're trying to get this guy to quit, trying to get him to leave. And you know what? That is describing a lot of marriages right there. See with men toward or women with their husbands, see with husbands towards their wives, where they will sit there and everything's fine on the honeymoon, but then that afterglow comes off and the trust issues reemerge. New trust issues form as there's little petite betrayals, little screw ups. He doesn't understand how the finances freak you out, or she doesn't understand how laughing at this moment is going to hurt you. And there's these little trust issues that pop up. And instead of being a Christian disciple and an adult and praying through your trust issue and getting it right, you take the thing that you need to trust them on and you go, no, I'm going to take care of that myself. I can't trust you to do this, so I'm going to take it away from you. I'll do it myself. I'll put it over here. I'll assign that over there. I'll give you a really, it's almost symbolic of it. It's not even a real example. But let's say the sink breaks and you go, okay, babe, don't worry. I'm going to do this, because it's kind of in our culture, it's kind of a man's job. Kind of feels like it anyway. It's like, when you get married, you don't sit down and say, which one of us is going to take out the garbage? It's you, bro. You're going to take out the garbage. You don't have to talk about, well, if there's a toilet problem, who's going to plunge this thing? You don't even have to talk about it. It's going to be the man. The same way, sink breaks, you should fix that sink. And you just go, and maybe you don't have the tools. You don't know what you're doing. You're trying and it's getting worse. Now things are leaking down there. And you got the YouTube video, you're working it out. And you probably would have threw in the towel and called somebody, but sure you know what you're doing down there? Babe, I don't want dry rot issues. And what the communication, real talk, I don't really trust you to be a husband on this thing. I don't think you can handle it. And then imagine this. Imagine you go out to the garage, you grab a sandwich, you come back, and there's some other dude there working on your sink. It's her dad. Or she called a plumber. And she said, I don't understand why you're not happy. You were frustrated. You don't have to do it anymore. Why are you bothered? Why are you bothered? Because in this scenario, we equated this with a responsibility that was mine, that you were going to need me in this area, but you didn't trust me to get it done, to figure it out one way or the other. And you replaced me in that job. Let me rephrase it in a different way. Here's your wife, or you're the wife, and you're working on redecorating something, and it just went bad. It was this hideous pink or something. You thought, man, it looked different on the swatches. It's just, sorry, babe, it looks crazy. And then the next day you come home, and your husband's mom is there, your mother-in-law, and she's decorating the room. And he goes, babe, I thought you'd be happy. You weren't pulling it off anyways. And she's going to do it for free. She would be like, what the hell is this woman doing in my house? Why? Because that's her seat. You gave her seat. You gave his seat. Same thing with men famously. I don't want to stop and ask for directions. We're kind of losing that because cell phones. It used to be a famous thing. Why don't you stop and ask for directions? Why? Probably because you're telling him to. Probably because you're expressing, I don't trust you to lead us on this car trip. And I think that some other man I don't know should be my husband in this area for a few minutes. I think you should tag out and let Jerry from the quickie stop be the captain of our ship for a minute. And I'm not saying that's real. It's a symbol, but it's a symbol that's touching on this issue. Because it doesn't say in the Bible, thou shalt always find the way without asking for directions. It doesn't say he shall repair the sink or she shall, redo the guest bathroom. Those aren't part of the official rules of being a man or a woman, but they feel like they are in our culture. And that's why we're so sensitive about them, is because you're not supposed to give your spouse's place to someone or something else, or even take it upon yourself. You see this very commonly with women is that they will push their husbands back and back and back. I don't trust you with the finances. I don't trust you with the kids by yourself. I don't trust you to handle this. I don't trust you to handle that. And slowly they're eating up the responsibility and pushing this man to the side. And then one day they wake up and go, why am I still paying this dude? What the hell does he do? It's like nothing. And I mean, something weak sauce there if he's letting you do that. But that also tends to be the man's temptation, is the back off to the side as well. We'll get into that. You know, the devil has a complementary plan on how to screw your marriage, and it involves the woman slowly stealing all that stuff back until she's the king of the kingdom, and you don't want to be queen. So you're like cousin Fred living in the camper outside or something. You're not in the center of your house anymore. It's not right. It's not what the Bible describes. And then the woman even knows that's not right. The wife goes, well, why do he's like another kid? Why do I have this guy around? It's like, yeah, why did you ever get married if you weren't going to trust that guy to be the man? And why did you marry this guy if you didn't think he had what it took? Usually it's not even about that. What it's really about, if we got honest about it, is you've never been tested in trusting somebody like that before. That's what marriage is about. That's why it's a sacrament in training us to God. We think we're ready to be martyred for Christ right now. I'm ready to go, Lord. But we can't lay down our lives for another person over, a shopping list. I want to get this. Well, we can't afford this. I don't think we can do. We can't lay down our life for somebody else over a shopping list. Believe me, you're not ready to lay down your life and be beheaded for Christ. You're not ready for it. You think you are. You think you're ready to lay down your life for your bride. She thinks that she'll follow you to the ends of the earth. But that is going to be tested in marriage. And you're going to find a need for Jesus in the midst of it if you can be honest about what's going on. The problem is we don't face the trust issue. We just move the responsibility someplace that feels more comfortable. And the problem is we don't realize we are violating a central component of marriage when you are stripping your spouse of the actual job. You are turning your husband into a roommate. You're turning your wife into some woman who sleeps in the same bed with you. And you are draining the marriage of what it is. And it's literally like anemia. It's like somebody's coming in at the night and sticking a leech or cutting you and draining out a few quarts of blood out of your marriage every night. And you're like, it's not that our marriage is terrible. It's just, it's got nothing to it anymore. It's so weak. There's no passion. There's no thing. Why? Because you used to depend on each other and you're slowly figuring out how to get that out of the system. I don't want to depend on her. I don't want to depend on him. What are you here for then? Call it a divorce and own the sin. Don't try to lie to God like he thinks that you're not, you're just violating the covenant over and over again every day. I don't endorse marriage. I don't really mean it. But, I'm getting what I'm saying. Own it. Own what you're actually doing. It's cowardice on both. It's a lack of faith on both levels, whether it's from the man to the woman or whatever. Avoiding trust issues by moving responsibilities. This is going to sound rough. A huge part of being married is knowing your place. I don't mean it in a negative sense, but knowing what your place is and staying there. Not trying to do your spouse's job, staying out of their lane. Even there are men like, oh, I have the headship and stuff. It's like, yeah, but know your lane, bro. Like there are things that are none. Like you are responsible for how well she's doing her job. Are you taking care of her? Is she in sin? Is there something like you are still watching over it? But you're not supposed to be micromanaging everything. That's not a solution. Like I understand you got to step in. She's going crazy spending money. You got to step in or something. But that is not a permanent position. Oh, she can't handle punishing the kids, so I got to take up. That's not a permanent position. That's not a solution for you to come and say, I'm going to take a big chunk out of what it means to be a wife. I'm going to take it away from you because you can't handle it. I understand there might be a probationary period. I can't trust you to do this. You just took $300 and spent it on this, or you just, hurt our kid. You screamed at him. You said something terrible. You can't discipline. You got to step in if something's wrong there. But that is not a permanent solution because it's hurting her. She's hurt herself to some extent until you maintain that just because it's easier not to trust her with it. Then you're hurting her for no reason. If there's no way back, if there's no way for be like, yeah, okay, this you're not it's cool. You can come back and take this is part of the covenant. It's something that belongs to them. We can't just take it away. We have to know our place. We have to guard our spouse's place first of all. Now, the best example, this is a very simple understanding of it, because what you have to realize is that in marriage, when we start talking about, sorry, give me a second to clear my throat here. When we're talking about what it means to be a husband and what it means to be a wife, we're talking about something you can spend your life studying. It's not something I can give you 4 points in a poem and here it is and now you perfect. I can give you a starting place to some degree, but it's a big thing and it's something that you both really have to experience by walking it out with the Lord and talking to God about it. And there's going to be revelations. Like you've heard it 1,000 times what your husband's supposed to be, but there's going to be a moment where God leads you to a place where it clicks and you see him, and even in a small way in that role, and it clicks for you, and all of a sudden it's meaningful to you. There's going to be a moment when God's like, this is what your wife, she's supposed to beautify, and she brings this thing and it makes your life savory and worth having. And there's going to be a moment when you walk in and you see her and she's taken something and she's made it home instead of being dwelling, instead of being a thing that you made or built. She's taken it up a notch. She's made this thing happen. And there are going to be moments when you recognize the role that your spouse is walking in, and it centers into you and you understand how to guard it better. And it is about getting into scripture and studying these things. It is about that. It's going to be something you learn as you walk out your marriage. So I'm not trying to fully define these things, and don't take these as full definitions. They're not. But I'm just trying to express this idea more clearly. I think a super helpful way to look at this exercise by itself, I think could probably shift things in most marriages, is if you looked at it this way. When you got married, God was leading you one way or another, permissively or whatever. He was leading you, foredestined, pre-knew, this was going to happen. He's made a plan all around it. He has led you to be with your spouse, to fulfill that place in your life. The way that they're going to do it, sin, freckles, wrinkles, blemishes, and all, this is how it's going to work out. This is God's plan for you. And when God led you into the situation, essentially what it is God, if you're the wife, the woman who's going to be a wife, God has brought this man to you and said, I want this man to be your man, be your husband. In the Bible, that means God saying, I want him to be your head and reign over your house and be your protector and be your provider and be the one who surrounds you in all the ways that is necessary. In the honeymoon phase, you're like, amen, let's go. Same thing for the man. There was a moment your wife's walking down that aisle and she's looking like $1 million in that wedding dress, and you're weeping because of the beauty of what you're seeing. She's going to come into my life and she's going to beautify it. I can survive, but I can't thrive. I'm a man. I can carve out a log cabin in the woods, but I can't make it a home. I could adopt some kids, but we'd be living like kindergarten cop with me with a whistle and them doing push-ups or something. She comes in and makes it a family. She's the heart. I'm the head, but she's the heart. And in that moment, you could recognize God brought this woman in and he says, this is the lady of your house. Now, the thing is, what we tend to do is we tend to shift our picture, and this ties into other things. This can be a little bit of a placeholder if you do it this way. It can also be what happens when we speak ill of somebody as we shift it a little bit. They're interconnected. But a lot of times what we will do is we are not treating that person with the respect and the position that they are owed. You married that guy. He is a man. You're not a pedophile. You didn't marry a boy. You married a man. God called him a man. You called him a man. Married in front of your whole family. They all said, well, isn't he mentally retarded? He's got the equivalency of a 4-year-old. You can't marry him. No, they said that's a man. and you married him. And you need to understand that you can't be walking around in your life treating him like he's something other than the man that he is. And you can't go walking around with your wife looking down your nose at her like she's something less than that beautiful woman that God gave you. You can't do that. It's not true. And it's harmful. And it's a disrespecting of the place. It's saying you don't even fit in your own place. You don't belong here. It's horribly negative in a marriage. It's horribly negative. So I would think, and I'm not saying this, like this is, I tend to point out something like this and people go, yeah, so next time my wife's talking to me like, you're not treating me like I'm your man. You're not treating me like the head. And she's like, you're not treating me like a lady. And it's like, what? Speck in the other person's eye. That's what we're looking at. What does the Bible say? What's the log hanging out of my eye? That's the priority. So I'm asking this question in this way. When you're, next time you're in a fight with your wife, next time you're arguing with your spouse, I want you to stop. If you're the husband, you're arguing with your wife, I want you to stop and say, am I doing this? Like maybe there's a real issue. Maybe there's, you're fighting about something that's real. But am I talking to this woman as if she was the lady of my house, the mother of my children, the wife of my dreams, because it's God's plan and he gave her to me? Am I talking to her like that? And then look at yourself and say, am I acting like the man? Am I acting like the head of this house? Because sometimes you'll be like, I'm treating her like she's some sort of a crone or something, like talking down to her like she's terrible. And if I really looked at myself, I'm not acting like a man. I'm acting like an upset teenage boy or something. I'm just whining about stuff, and I'm not being a man. And sometimes you need to stop and say, God has called us to these roles. Am I even paying attention to whether we're fulfilling these roles at all? And stop and saying, this is a lady. How can I expect my wife to be the lady of the house if I treat her like a scullery maid, or if I treat her like a retarded child that can't do anything, or if I talk down to her like she has a horrible heart and she doesn't want to give and she's just selfish, or she's a horrible reprobate because she doesn't know the Lord well enough, so she's just some sinner who can't do anything. If I'm treating her in a way that does not accord with what God has said, how can I expect her to react to me as the lady of the house? I don't treat her as one. And how can I expect her to treat me like a man if I don't act like one? If I don't hold myself up, if I don't have some pride and some dignity in myself, how can I expect her to see it? Just sitting there praying, God, give her a supernatural vision of me while I act the opposite? That's crazy. She needs the supernatural vision, but stop sabotaging the thing by acting like a kid. It'll change things. And it's the same thing. I don't want to be on one side. It's the same thing for a woman. Sometimes you're in the middle of a fight with your husband. I get that you have something. He's not hearing you, and this is a serious issue. And you're trying to put his eyes on a problem that needs to be addressed. And I understand all the energy there, but you need to slow your roll and look and say, am I speaking to the man that God has given me? He is the man in my life. He is the head over my house. He's my leader. Am I talking to him that way? There's no emergency on the planet that deserves for a husband to speak down to his wife, or that deserves for a wife to speak down to her husband as if they are not in the roles that God put them in, that you swore into in the covenant union of getting married, of that wedding. It's not there for you. She needs to stop and say, am I speaking to him as if he was a man and not a little boy or something, or some villain or some criminal in this story? Am I talking to him like he's the man, my man? And then stop and look at yourself. Am I being the lady of this house? Or am I being some whiny victim? Some naggy, cartoonish version of myself that I don't want to be that person. That's not who I signed up to be in this thing. So often we just need to stop and say, and look at ourselves and be like, how am I treating this person, and how am I standing right now? Does this fit what God has called us to? That's a beginning right there. And most people never think of it. They're so focused on whatever they're talking about, they don't take a step back. It would change the argument. If you could have the biggest, craziest problem right here. Take the problem that's outstanding in your marriage right now, and imagine you have a conversation in it, and you're both focused on this. I'm going to be who I am called to be in this situation. I'm going to be the head. I'm going to be the lady of the house. And that you are going to treat the other person according to what God has called them. And that you covenanted with them. He is your husband. Doesn't matter if he's fulfilling the roles or not. You signed him up for this place. He isn't going to suddenly step up while you're sitting in his chair and knock you. Like, you have to make room for him. God has not allowed you to go sit in his chair and say, he's not doing his job, so I'm going to do his job for him. God is not permit. That is unlawful. That's like me saying, my wife won't sleep with me, so I'm going to go get a prostitute, or I'm going to go on the Pornhub, and it's all okay. It's all lawful because she's not doing it. No. Sucks for me. Sucks for you, bro. That's a rough position to be in, but it does not change the fact that she is the sole fulfillment for that for you. And in the same way, you could be a wife and say he's not a good leader. It's like, but that does not make you a leader. It does not make that right. It is still a violation of your covenant. He is screwing up over there. If it's true, he's screwing over there. How is you screwing up going to fix that? It's not. If there's any hope of encouraging him to be the leader, you got to stay out of his spot and let him be the leader. As scary as that might be, you have to understand that is what God signed you up for. He said, sign up for this. Sign up for him to be the head. He didn't sign up and say, well, I know, Lizzie, he's not going to be what you need him to be, and so you're going to have a hybrid thing where you're half the man in this thing. He didn't sign it up that way. He said, I know what's wrong with Robert, and I know what's wrong with you, and I know what struggles you're going to go through this marriage, and I'm calling you to it anyways. See, we have trust struggles with our spouse that are actually trust struggles with God. I don't trust that God knew what he was doing when he gave me this person. Yeah, he did. You just don't trust him enough to put your money where your mouth is with them. You cannot go and fulfill their job for them. You can't give it to another person. It is not your right to do that. And you need to get real with God. What are the things that belong to your spouse that you cannot touch? What are the things, what are the needs that you have that nobody else can fulfill but them? You should know what those things are. I can't tell you what all of them are. I can give you some hints, but it's not even going to mean anything until you hear it from God, until you realize, until he says into your heart, Danny, you can't take this anymore. You can't take this anywhere else. I don't care if she's doing it right or not. You might have to be in the humble position of going over again and again and saying, babe, I need this from you. And her just, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And say, well, I'm not going to go anywhere else. I'll starve then. That's part of marriage. Part of marriage is patience. Part of marriage is waiting. Part of marriage is illustrated in the fact that you're holding back and you're not having sex and you're going through this whole thing until you get married. That's training, because there's going to be a lot of things in your marriage where you're waiting for that person to get whole enough to fulfill the need that only they're allowed to fulfill in your life. And you're just going to be there with God. God, can't you perfectly fulfill it? No, I'll give you enough that you don't drown, but you're going to be starving for what this person has for your life until they're ready, because I need you to pray for them like you care. You're not going to be. You're going to be praying, God, fix your sex life while you're looking at Pornhub? No, bro, but believe me, you're going to be praying for God to have a breakthrough with your wife. If you're not getting any, and you're just like, God, I'm bouncing off the walls, dude. I can't handle this. God will get you through. There's no excuses. He'll get you through. There are people called to be celibate their whole life, man. He'll get you through. He'll get you through the droughts, but part of that is motive. God, that's all part of God's plan. People stack up these things and say, oh, there's imperfections in the other person. God must not have seen, like he knew, bro. He knows exactly what's wrong, and he knows exactly how those imperfections are going to serve his cause. This is the sacrament that's preparing your heart for him. Her problems are perfect. His problems are perfect to get you past yours so that you can come to a perfect God. Think about how much harder it is to have that kind of union with God versus to have it with your spouse. God, this is just a step in the right direction. A beautiful tool, no doubt. But that's how it works. You see, the fact is, let me put it this way. The other day, we were hanging out in here, and my daughter came over with pictures. She's always drawn pictures. There's a picture of me, a little etch-a-sketch kind of thing. Not, it has a pencil. It's not an etch-a-sketch, but whatever. She held it up to me, and it was like a stick figure of me. It's supposed to be me, and it had this big shield. It was an obvious shield shape. I go, what's that? It's a shield. It's Daddy, you have a shield. And mommy's talking to her about it too. Kelly's talking to her, and she's like, well, is that a sword? No, he doesn't have a sword. And it was kind of like she was saying, it's not medieval times, Mom. And it would just, eventually you figure out this picture is just a picture of our family. Nothing abnormal going on in this picture. None of it seems abnormal to her at all, but I got a shield for some reason in this picture. And finally, Kelly just asked her straight out, why does Daddy have a shield? And she goes, because Dad protects us. Glowing moment if you're a dad, ching, ching, gold star right there, because it's communicating deep enough into this child's brain that Dad is watching over us and he's seeing problems before they get to us and he's protecting us. That's a man's job, not just for his kids, for his wife. He's supposed to be the one. I see the problems coming, hun. I stand between you and the things you're afraid of. And if you are called to walk through something, you're not going to walk through it alone. I'm going to stretch you. Just like God will stretch you. I'm going to stretch you just like my bridegroom stretches me. I'm going to make you face your fears, but I'm not going to torch you with them. I'm getting you to a stronger, healthier place. I'm not going to let you be a slave to fear, but there's nothing to really be afraid of while I'm here. But see, here's the thing. It is easy to roll your eyes at a shield you never use. You got some rusty shield in the corner because you don't trust it. And you're out there just dodging missiles by yourself. It's easy to look down at it. It's easy for you to look at your husband as a protector and laugh at the idea because you don't trust him to protect you. You don't let him. He's trying to protect you, and you don't even notice that he's catching missiles for you because you're working on building your own little paper mache shield for yourself over here. Marriages are full of that. And it's sabotage. It's sabotage for you to be taking that guy's role from him. He's out there trying, and eventually at some point he goes, it doesn't matter. She doesn't notice when I do it, and she's doing something else to protect herself. And that's actually pretty much what God does. If you are doing something for God, God will back out. If God's like, I'm going to provide for you, and you go, oh, I'm going to do all this, you go, okay, this is your thing then. But like, God, I want you to empower me to preach, but then you don't get out of the way to let him give you anything. You're just doing it in your own strength. Eventually, God's going to back up like, okay, when you're done chasing your glory in this, when you're done working out your fears in this, when you're ready to surrender and let me take the lead and be the head, I will. But you got to lay it down. You got to lay down your shield. There are so many times I'll see this in a marriage where here's the man trying to do his job for the wife, and she's been brainwashed by the feminist cult that has taken over the West to think it would be a sin for me to admit that I need him. It would be a sin for me to need him right now. And so she's like, I'll see it in like little things, like a husband and wife will be working on, she's wanting to do something, and it's some big project, It's like, girl, you're not doing it. Like what? You're gonna redo the drywall, take out this wall, put in this thing. You want to put in can lights. You're gonna do it. You're talking about it like you're gonna do it, but we all know you're not gonna do it. And then at some point, it's like, no, I don't need your help. I don't need your help. I don't need your help. And then all of a sudden, it's like, are you gonna help me? It's just an instant flip, right? Like, bam. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus. This is a very mild example of this, but we wanted to get a grill, right? So we got this grill, and she wanted this grill, and it was obvious there were things out of her wheelhouse that she was going to be leaning on me for in that process, with the gas and replacing a gas line and cleaning the grill and seasoning the grill and all this stuff. And so I did it for her. She got it, and I did it for her, and so I'm done, and I just re-seasoned the grill, so I know where the hot places are in the grill because I just re-season it. They season up first. I know the places where the seasoning hasn't taken yet. So you crack an egg on that, you ain't getting that egg off. You're gonna have to scrape it up like you want to be here. And so my wife comes out. She wants to make dinner. I just received. Oh, that looks great, babe. And she starts cooking on there. And I'm trying to, I don't need your help. Oh, okay. You somehow magically know where these are. I didn't know where they are until I did all that. Now I know because I've investigated. But you have a woman's intuition. You instantly know where these spots. This is angry thoughts in my head. So anyways, all right, whatever. I sat down. 5 minutes later, I'm sitting down next to Robert, I think, or something. We're sitting there, and she goes, "Can you watch this? I got to do something." She's got a whole bunch of food on there. I go, "Sure." I get up there, and I kind of made a joke because she wanted me to watch it, but she kind of didn't want me to touch it. I'm like, "Well, what am I doing?" But I got up there anyway, and this food started to burn because it's really hot. The grill has super burners or whatever. So I'm turning over the food, and she brings out more food, and I'm still turning it. I'm not done. I'm almost done. It'd be awkward to hand over right then. Did this get turned or not? So I'll just finish it. And then she's handing me food to put on the grill, and I put it on the one spot because I know this is a good spot to put it on. And she goes, "No," pushes it into the corner. I go, "Okay, that's cold and there's no seasoning. That's going to stick, and you're going to not be able to clean it later." And there's like 100 things. But this is one of those weird things that constantly happen. The women would be like, "You're mansplaining to me," or something. And it's like, actually, I'm not. It's like, this is the situation. I'm not mansplaining to you. You won't admit you don't know how to do something. That's a different story. And it's very, very common. And it's something like, if you're trained by all the women in your whole life that there is something shameful about you, if a man is better than you at anything in your life, you should be able to do anything a man can do better than it. Then how many times are you going to go, "Okay, God, I understand. I need him, and I can only go to him, and I have to trust him for it." You're never going to deal with any of those trust issues because it's shameful to even admit that there would be a need that he could only fulfill, that's what God's asking for in this situation. And so you see it all the time. It's on TV. Every relationship I've been around, you see it, where there'll be a woman working on something, and the man's just like he wants to get in there and help her. Obviously, that tire is too heavy for you to pull off. Like, I can see it, and you don't have the jack up high enough. You're gonna take this flat tire off, and then you're gonna get the full tire, and you're gonna have to. It's not gonna fit because the tire's full of air, and you like these things that and I don't need your help. 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 And it's like, even if you were the husband, you should be taking my counsel as the wife right now, at least to see the thing I'm talking about. No, no, no. It would be shameful for me to even listen to you right now. And then all of a sudden, I'm in over my head. I think the car's going to fall off the jack stand because I'm trying to jack it up with no tire on it to fit in the full tire that I didn't have room for. And are you? And then it's angry. It's not even, "Will you help me?" It's like, "Will, are you going to help me? Are you waiting for me to get crushed under here?" It's like, "Well, you told me. All right. Now," and then you step in, and the second you fix the problem and you get the tire on, "Okay, okay, I don't need your help. Get out of the way so I can put the lug nuts on and pretend that this was me." Right? Have you seen this? It's very common. Everybody's smiling. All the guys smile at me because it's true. That's what this is constantly done. And it's not even like, think about how insulting that is to that guy. You're just slapping him in the face, telling him you don't need him. And then, even when it's obvious that you need him, you're going to use him and then not admit that you used him and that you needed. "I don't really need you." And you're going to roll your eyes at it. That is a terrible thing to do. You're completely gutting that guy's job. And then later on, you're going to go, what do I need this guy for? He's like a kid. Well, what? You don't. You understand where I'm going here? There's nothing there for him. That's a terrible thing to do to a marriage. Don't do that. Now, this is the man version. I see it all the time. This is like the idea. Like, in some ways, women are like a beautiful rose bush in your garden. And it grows up, and there's these fragrant blossoms, and it's like you have this ugly backyard, and you cleaned it out and you cut the weeds down and ripped out some trees and stuff, but it just was meh. And then you plant this beautiful plant, and it's a flowering thing, and it's a jacaranda tree with blossoms hanging over, and sweet aromas are floating, and all of a sudden it's a garden, it's a paradise, man. Something changed. Like, like, you're a single guy, your apartment smells like socks, you got like dishes in the thing. It's just like you threw up a poster on the wall with like staples to get it into the wall, and then you had to tape it because the staple came out over here. It's a little torn, and it's like cattywampus, and you got all that. I'm thinking back in the day, DVDs and games all over the ground over your TV, big pot, your Christmas trees there in July. It's just nasty, and then you get married, bro. And this woman comes into your life, and all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and go, doesn't smell like socks anymore, you know? Your clothes are clean. You're not walking around in like a wrinkled shirt with a mustard stain on the back of your neck that nobody's telling you is there. Like you're getting a haircut on a regular basis. You know, you're being like there's just someone coming around and fixing details, like helping you with this and that. And it beautifies. It's like the rose bush. How beautiful is this rose bush? It's just really, it pulls everything together out here. It's so nice, you know? But what happens in a marriage is you'll have a guy go, you know, when I married this rose bush, it's beautiful. When I took it home from the garden center, it was a prize winner. And now look at this wilty, busted up, wearing her sweatpants all day, don't put no makeup on, you know. I don't think she took a shower today, kind of, the house is a mess. Like, and we're looking at the wilty rose bush and saying, "Pull yourself together. What's wrong with you?" And then you'd be like, "Dude, when was the last time you watered that thing?" I don't know. Did you prune it ever? Because this thing looks overgrown. You ever tell her to pull back on some of the crazy? Nah, just ignore it. And she gets crazier all the time. Okay. Do you love and care for this thing that has beautified your life? Look, I'm real busy at work lately. We got kids. I mean, I'm tired. At the end of the day, I don't want to prune my rose bush. I just ignore the crap out of this thing. And at some point, you gotta go, bro. I hate to tell you this, but this is kind of your fault that this thing looks like this. Like maybe it's not, but there's no way to know until you do your job. Maybe you do your job and there's still something wrong with this thing, but you can't even tell the way you've been ignoring it lately. And this is the case with women. When Paul talks about women, this is a verse you never hear anybody talk about, but he goes, they're the weaker partner. He says you're supposed to show up and take care of this person. In fact, this is the crazy thing. Women have needs, man. They need you. You know what you need from a woman more than anything else? You need them to need you. Even the sex thing is that. No. That the little bit of that's a band-aid, but it's also true that is part of that. You need them to need you. Like if you're having sex with her and she's just looking at you like, "You done?" That ain't gonna work for very well. That's not gonna work. You need them, but they don't need you. Even the sex is about them needing you. You want to go, "Baby, I need you." That's what you want in that. That's what you both want. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But what's at the heart of this thing is even what the man needs is that he needs to be needed. You know what they did? They did a study. I heard this the other day, and they were trying to figure oxytocin. It's the love hormone, and it knocks down your cortisol and your stress levels. And there are different things that create it. And they studied women, and they found out the most powerful thing a man can say to release this oxytocin stress-relieving hormone is, "I love you." That's obvious, right? That should be everybody's answer. Wasn't with the man. You know what it was? Thank you. A meaningful thank you, where the woman sees, "I needed you to do this, and you did it, and I'm thankful that you did it. Thank you. I needed you, and you came through. Thank you." That's like a man's just like, something came off of him right there. That's like a hug for a man. It's ridiculous, but it's true. A man needs to be needed. And the world has trained women to constantly, even when they need it, they go, "Okay, I just want to clarify. I let you do that. I didn't need you to do it." And it's just like, okay, just to clarify, I don't really love you. I chose to like you for the moment. That's the equivalent of what you're doing for a man in that situation. So it's just, we do these things to each other. You're rolling your eyes that your man never does his job. And it's like, you took those responsibilities. You don't trust him with any of that. You don't trust. You got the plan B. You're like, "Yeah, you can run the finances," and here you are sticking money in a secret bank account because you don't trust him at all. You're betting on his failure. You're like, "Do this, do that," and then he goes, "I got it, babe," and you're still there planning, still sticking things, the little notes under his door. "Here, I got more plans. You should do it this way. You should do it that way." Why? Because you don't trust him to be your husband. You're not really letting him do it. And do you understand that you will never know what it means to have a husband if you won't let him be one. And that you will never know what it means to have your wife in your life if you don't let her be one. It's a powerful thing. Let me see this. Yep. So often with husbands, part of this is I'm thinking about the feedback, and I kind of spoken to that for a woman. Like a woman will say, "Well, he's never coming through for me. He never does this." And it's like, well, are you getting out of the way? You know, how can he come through for you? It's like complaining because he's not helping you change the tire, but you're changing the tire. If you don't step back and give him room to come in, if you can't complain that he didn't help you. There's a very well, he didn't offer, he didn't do this. It's like, well, I don't think that guy could change the tire. His back's bad. Oh, man, I got up too fast. Must be 40. Got up too fast to go pee. Ah! Doctor says I need a bacchiotomy. Man, time to do something. We're gonna pause the sermon to do some trunk twists. Oh yeah, yeah. Let's suck the discs back into the spine for a second here. But yeah, so I've already kind of spoke to that. But it's a very similar conversation with men where we're talking about, why aren't you watering this woman? Why aren't you stepping up and taking care of her in these ways? And the man goes, I talk to her all the time about how she's failing me. I'll be like, why won't you? I come home like, put on some makeup, put a comb through your hair, brush your teeth. You're watching my kids and can't you put yourself together? Why do we have the same dinner night after night? Like these things. Like why do you never initiate sex? What, you don't want me no more? Like it's all these things, right? And we go, yeah, I'm pruning her. I'm like, I didn't say take a machete to the bush, just like chop it to the freaking ground. Like, I didn't say that. I'm saying lovingly take care of this. This ain't going to happen in the middle of an argument. Dang, this guy was a little embarrassed about hurting his back. He had to put some water in his hair. Rico Suave over here. But yeah, there's a big difference between pruning and watering and caring for your wife and swallowing down your bitterness day after day until you blow up on her. A big difference. If you that's not obvious, it's a big difference. And to some degree, men just need to take responsibility for their wife's condition. Your wife's not thriving unless you're doing your job. So you can't sit there and say, I don't know why she's not thriving. When you're not doing your job, it's at least your fault. At least. Maybe it's her fault too. Maybe it's not. But at least it's your fault. There's no way it can't be. If you walked out, you saw a rose bush and it's just freaking rotting to the ground, and they go, "Well, I haven't watered it, but I think there might just be something wrong with the rose bush too." And you'd be like, "Well, why don't you try watering the rose bush, and maybe everything gets fixed?" But definitely, that's the first step to fixing anything else. I mean, a lot of men, you'll tell them like, "Why aren't you leading your wife? You need to step up and lead your wife. You need to be uh, fulfill your role as a husband," and they'll say, "Well, it's my fault. Doesn't she have a free will?" And my answer is, yes, she does. But to follow what? How can she be a follower if you ain't leading? That's it. That's leadership in general. It's easy to talk crap on the people who are supposed to be following you. If you're not leading, then that's the only option they have. Maybe they would make a good choice if you led. Maybe they would make a bad choice if you led. But it's not even on the table if you're not stepping up and doing your job. And that's just the unfortunate truth of it. Might not seem fair on its face, but it is. Um, a helpful way to understand a man and a woman, and this is not going to fully outline all of this. This is just getting you in the neighborhood, get you start thinking and praying about this stuff. Is a man is strong. If a man isn't strong, he's not a man. If a man doesn't believe he's strong, he's going to have a real hard time acting like he's a man. And if you married your husband, you married him because you detected strength. You would have ran for the hills if you hadn't. There was something strong there that grabbed you as a woman if you married your husband. He's a strong man. And what he does with that strength is he strengthens and he encourages and he shelters all those who are under his authority. Your house, your family, you. That's what he's supposed to do. But I'm going to tell you something about men um, in the world, men in our society for sure, is they tend to create false mini kingdoms, I call them. Here's your kingdom. You're supposed to leave your father and mother, leave that family, create your own family, bring your spouse in, cleave onto her, create this family. Here's your kingdom. Your wife, your kids, call of God on your life, your church. This is all part of touching your kingdom. You got this big kingdom. You're the king, bro. You feel strong. You feel confident. But then stuff comes up. Old issues. You're not really sure how strong you are, whatever. And what a tendency is for a man is to make a mini kingdom that he feels like I can handle this. I don't know if I can handle everything else, but I can be strong here. I can be effective here. I can be capable here. I can win over here. And he'll create a little mini kingdom. And it's never in the center of his real kingdom. It's always on the side, about as far to the side of center as he can get it. Off in the corner. Here's my mini kingdom. And ultimately, what that allows them to do is it allows them to write off everything else. I don't have to be strong for anything else but my little mini kingdom over here. And so maybe it's work. I go to work and I'm strong and I'm doing a good job with my bit. And when I come home, I don't got anything from my wife or my kids or God or anything. That's not in my little mini kingdom. So I just come home and I'm completely passive and checked out because I'm not going to be. And what are you ultimately doing? I'm not going to be a man here. I'm not going to be strong here. I'm not going to strengthen things here. I'm not going to be a man. So what are you? You're a boy. Not because that's who you are. That's who you're choosing to be. You're choosing to deny the strength inside of you. I don't have enough faith in what God is saying about me to fully live it out. And I'm going to find this place that's safe. I know I can succeed here. I know I can feel like a winner here. And so I'm going to say this is the only part of my life that matters. But unfortunately, it's some stupid thing on the side like earning money, or I'm really good at video games, or I'm working on my car and it's over here and it's safe because I know how to do it. But unfortunately, now what's your life? The only thing that matters in your life, the only thing you're investing in your life is this stupid thing on the side. Who's over here? Who you don't have time. You don't have it, you don't have strength for them. Who's rotting in the passivity and the checked outness? And I don't even have time to look at you. It's your wife, it's your kids, it's your family. Because the most common screw up that men have is that what it comes down to is I'm not sure if I can come through. I'm not sure if I can handle this. I'm not sure if I want to find out. And so I'm going to try to diminish my role as a man into something smaller that's not scary for me. But it's always off to the side. I'm going to diminish and go over to the side here. And it's very tempting for a man to take that, especially if the woman's saying, you know, it's kind of chauvinistic that you want it to be such a big part of this family anyways. You should be in the corner. Go to your man cave. You know, go in there, play video games. And that's the push. Very common and very destructive. And what happens is she doesn't see any strength there. All she sees is he has no strength for me, and she thinks I misjudged him. I thought he was strong when I married him, but he doesn't have any strength. He's selfish and he hides his strength in what he wants, and he doesn't have anything for me and the kids. And so what does she treat you like? Like a little boy or something, like a disappointment. And that just makes you think, oh man, I really am failing. I'm gonna go play 4 more levels of Warcraft or something. trying to feel like a man over here. And then yeah, the super old stuff. But and then and it reinforces itself. It reinforces itself. Now a woman is beautiful. A woman is beautiful. That's what they do. Believe me, I've yet to meet a man who married a woman who didn't think she was beautiful, at least when he married her. And it's more than a superficial beauty. It's an inward beauty that has the ability to go out and beautify your life. Like I said, you had some dirty sock smelling apartment, and this woman came in and beautified your life. She brought heart to it. She brought meaning and pattern to it, and you can see it. Like you cut it out of the wilderness, but she blesses it. She beautifies it. She does this amazing thing to it. Right? It's great, and it awakens hope, and it blesses your kingdom. Like my kingdom was like a military barracks. I left my family's kingdom. I left my family. I left my parents behind. I started my own thing. But when she joined, man, look at how everything changed. It all blossomed and came to life. It's this beauty. Now it's fit for children to be in here. It's fit for the fullness of life to be in this place. But there is temptations and hardships for women as well. What women usually do is they form a false mini kingdom too. Their false mini, a man is like, you are supposed to rule this kingdom, and now you are trying to find something smaller, and you are abdicating. You are abdicating your job. The temptation for a woman is to build any kingdom. She's supposed to join your kingdom. She's supposed to be your helpmate. She's supposed to come in and support you in building your kingdom for God. She's hitching her wagon to your star. There's no other way to interpret scripture on this point. It's not an equal thing. It's not two kingdoms in tandem together. We are allies. The kingdom of woman and the kingdom of man. Together we lift ourselves. No, it's joining yourself to your husband. You are fighting for his success, and it's your success because you're joining him. You are the queen. He is the king. It's not an independent thing at all. And the temptation for a woman is to create a false mini kingdom that's usurping. That's what it does. It's not on the side. It's right in the middle. It's right growing up the edge of that throne. And what it is like, I'm going to try to take things by admission, by lawyering things around, I'm going to try to take things and bring them under my authority. And then I'm going to try to sever any sort of oversight or connection the husband has and create my own thing. And then I'm going to try to grow it bigger and bigger and bigger until his kingdom has become my kingdom. And now he's living in the little man cave mini kingdom on the side. And the two problems are aligned. Satan didn't build this on accident. He wants that man to shift out and go way out here and spend his greatest strength on something stupid while his family rots for the lack of strength. And meanwhile, he wants the woman to usurp it and fill his space and make it feel like you can't come back and take this. You're not wanted. And in the meanwhile, she can't handle it. The stress eats her alive, and it makes her bitter towards her kids and everything that's creating the stress, and especially bitter towards the little boy playing video games in the basement. And it all reinforces itself. And he looks at, it's hard to treat your wife like a lady when she's acting like a man. That's the temptation for her there. She's, I'm the man of this house. I'm the man. And you go, man, you are a man. It's disgusting, you know? And it's the same thing. When a man is acting like a little girl, it's hard for that woman to get excited about her and being a man. She treats him like a little girl, and that's offensive. It's offensive all around. Like, people are just getting offended left and right. And it's why? Because we're not, part of the reason we don't have signposts is just say, what are you doing? Dude, get back on your throne. Dude, you don't get to leave them behind. You don't get to waste your strength on something. You need, if you have energy left over, you need to use your strength to strengthen your kids and your wife. You need to get in there and do your job. You can't be wasting it over there. Well, I'm trying to grow my, I guarantee you God's not calling you to invest your strength in any way that leaves them hanging first. That's not how this works. When God calls a man to a job in the kingdom of God, he says first his house must be in order. Before he even calls him to the kingdom business, he does that. Certainly he's not calling you to do anything else at their expense. Believe me, you're not. You're bleeding funds somewhere. If he's called you to do this and have family, there's enough energy to go around. You just don't have faith in yourself. You don't have faith. You don't have enough trust in what God has called you to. When a woman begins to create like that mini kingdom, and it's real deceptive because it starts out as something in a lot of cases that you've given her this task, like, okay, this is part of the woman's thing. You want to handle this, you handle this better. Like, for example, like, yeah, you're gonna get up and take care of the babies in the middle of the night. You're breastfeeding. It'd be stupid for me to have some sort of mechanical breast like on Meet the Parents and be like trying to play mom. That'd be weird. So yeah, this is your job. It's obvious. And but it's weird that you can settle in that. You can settle, you can throw your elbows out and you can try to sever this thing away instead of saying, I am doing this in service to my husband's kingdom because he's chasing after God and this whole kingdom's in service to God's kingdom. And this is how we're doing it. I'm beautifying something that's already here. I'm not creating something for myself. A woman doesn't leave her father and mother and establish her own kingdom and then find another man who's established his kingdom and bring them together. And then they're trying to keep it even the whole time. That's how the world does it. But biblically, it's never that way. A woman lives in the shelter of her father's kingdom until her husband comes with his kingdom and she enters into that one. She's never on her own building her own thing. And so when she comes into the shelter and she's enjoying the benefit and shelter of her husband's kingdom, for her to build a kingdom, use that to build a rebellious kingdom within his kingdom, it is Absalomism. It is treacherous. And it is probably the greatest sin that a woman is threatened with as far as corrupting her soul in this life. It's so dangerous to usurp her husband's place, to help push him out. And the fruits of this, I gotta outline this. For men, it's very simple. I say you can see the fruit of your mini kingdom that you're totally passive and checked out in areas that matter. Pretty much any man's gonna see it. His wife's probably already been shoving it down his throat, so it's probably obvious. But for women, it's a little bit harder. I could just say rebellion, but most people aren't going to see it because they're not going to associate themselves with that word. So let me put it this way. By rebellion, I mean if a woman's building a usurping mini kingdom, what you're going to see is a lot of hiding information from her husband so she can do things independently of him. There's going to be a lot of half truths. I didn't really lie. I just left this huge part out that I knew you would want to know. Um, there's going to be outright deception at some point. I didn't lie, but I said what I said knowing you would misunderstand me, knowing that it would deceive you to some degree. There'll be outright manipulation at some point. These tend to grow as they go along. The manipulation might involve lawyering words, agreements, arrangements. Are you going to stop at this time? Then you better be done by this time. I'll come back and call you on this. I'm going to try to get you to commit to a promise. I'm going to hit you with 5 things as you're falling asleep. In a week time, I'm going to try to get you to agree to something so I can come back and hit you with it later. And what is it? I want to rule your kingdom. And I'm going to figure out a way to manipulate you so that I can get you to give me power in an incorrect way. And as a man, you have every right to come back later and say, I changed my mind. I'm not in some blood covenant with you with you for all that stuff. I don't promise my wife things like that. And I make it clear, man, everything that we agree to is conditional on what God's going to do tomorrow. And you don't build a house on it because it might move. But it's very common for that sort of Absalom to grow up and work on that thing. The last thing is what I call politicking, which is when somebody's going around and sort of setting up a conversation. It's like they're laying the groundwork for an argument that they're planning on having that they aren't having yet. So they're like going around and maybe try to get you to say something, maybe go around and maybe they're talking to the other people in your community and trying to lay a groundwork of, later on they could say, well, I talked to Tim about that. When the fight comes out, it's like they've done the ground. Well, I talked to your dad and he doesn't agree about that. There's other things that have been done on the side because it's a case that's being built because they know that you have the authority and they need something to overwhelm and push you. What? towards the passivity that Satan's tempting you into, so that you'll just go, okay, take the crown for this minute, go ahead and reign. And what happens a lot of times, it doesn't really happen unless the man is wimping out. He gets overwhelmed and he goes, fine, just take it and go. Just leave me alone. It's like Samson. Okay, I'll tell you my secret. He just gets ground down and he lets it happen. And it wouldn't really grow if that man was standing up saying, what are you doing? Absalom couldn't have done what he did if David called him out on the first day and said, what are you doing? Go home, Absalom. Don't sit at the gate. Stop talking to them. They're not your people. They're my people. You can come talk to me. I'm the king. You want change? You come talk to me. Don't go talking to them. What are you doing? But David, if you see the weakness, is he was always soft with his kids. That was a problem that got. That was the problem. It's a great pulpit. Pulpit is falling. Hang on just a second. I gotta get this. No, my foot's fine. But Absalom, right? He was angry about his sister because his half brother abused her. And what did David do? He didn't do anything because he was afraid of hurting one son. It didn't work out, right? Just right. Here I am. Okay. I think I found my spot. Don't lean on the pulpit, Philip. It's not stable. But that's exactly the kind of issue that's in play there. If we're standing up and saying, hey, God gave that to me, I'm not going to let you take it, there really isn't room for this to develop into a long-standing pattern. You're going to have conflict right there. And that's really what should happen. But again, Satan's usually working it from both angles. And society, you're being raised with an idea where your conception of what it means to be in the role is wrong. We have to go to scripture and it's going to tell you things, and God's going to speak into the middle of things. You go, that's me? Like I'm supposed to be doing that? And you just have no idea that it was even something that was required of you. And your wife goes, wow, okay. I didn't know that was something I'm supposed to stay out of, It's not something that would necessarily be recognized right off the bat. For example, we use this, it's kind of a throwaway idea of a mini kingdom for a man. It's like playing video games in the corner. One of the most prevalent mini kingdoms, or at least it was a generation ago, maybe the video games is on the rise, but one of the most prevalent mini kingdoms for a man is the idea that your job is to protect and provide. Protector, provider. That's a mini kingdom. You know what that's for? That's to say, this is my job and I can be passive everywhere else. I don't have to put strength anywhere else. This is where I'm called to invest. Everything else I can give to my wife. And she's like, give it to me. Earn me money. Earn money for your family and protect us. And you know what? It's the most shallow interpretations of both these words too. Because when we say provision, we mean what? Bring home a paycheck. And when we say protection, what do we mean? Physically. When was the last time that you had to physically protect your family? When was the last time you're in a fist fight in Walmart to protect your wife? It doesn't happen very often. It almost never happens. And so how convenient if that's all the strength you have to have. It's something you never, what's your job? Well, I have to go to work. What did you do before you got married? I went to work. So someone just like does your checking for you now and goes to the store for you now and does all these other things for you. Yeah, basically, yeah. She doesn't let me buy everything I want. She tells me what to do. Like, okay, so that's how you're the head, is you do the same thing you did before, but now you give it to somebody else to run the other half of it. That's you being the head, that you're less of a head now than you were before you got married. And protection, what's your job to protect? Well, I've never actually had to do it. Like ever. It's never happened. And in fact, Jesus says turn the other cheek, so I'm not even really sure if I'm supposed to do that if it happens. Probably supposed to be modeling a different model here. So it's like, wait, so what's the job? There is no job. That is a false mini kingdom that says I don't have to really do the real job. Because the real job scares me. That doesn't scare me. How could that scare you? You've been bringing home paycheck your whole life. That's not scary. You've been not getting in fights your whole life. That's not scary. That's easy. It's easy to say, well, that's my job and I'm killing it. And now I don't have to invest any strength anywhere else. How cheap is that? It's terrible. And a woman's job is what? To beautify and bless a man's kingdom. What if she's beautifying and blessing her kingdom? How cheap is that? That's what she was doing before she married you, right? Now she's still doing it. Who is she? I know why you were beautifying your kingdom before I showed up. It was supposed to lure me in. It was supposed to be like, look what I can do. Why is my daughter twirling around and making beautiful things? Why is she going to her mom and saying, show me how to make things beautiful? Because she's being trained up for her future husband. And my wife sends her over to me. It's like the final test. Go show your dad this beautiful thing you did. Why? Because ultimately, her beauty and her ability to beautify was created to be in service to a man of God, building up a kingdom for God. Eve was made for Adam. That's what she's supposed to come and be, the helpmeet. And so she's being trained up in that. But we have a psychosis in women nowadays that they were raised up under this idea that you're not supposed to need a man. So who are you beautifying for? You're beautifying for yourself because it feels good. I'm beautiful for me. And if your beauty is doing damage to somebody else, your husband's like, when you wear those, that thong swimsuit in front of my family, I feel like every man gets a piece of you, and it doesn't make me feel good at all. It makes me feel like, well, it makes me feel good. Whose kingdom are you building? You're building the kingdom that you're going to take with you with half of his paycheck when you divorce him and go to some other man you just caught in your bikini underwear. That's what this is going to. And there's so much of that happens in a much more general way. You'll see a woman, she'll redecorate her house. There's like 50 throw pillows, potpourri that smells like nerve gas that's sitting on the table. It smells like you're in a Joann's. You're like, I'm getting dizzy, man. I can't be in here. Are we in the laundry aisle? What's going on here? And when I'm in those situations, I'm like, who'd you do this for? If it isn't to make your husband more comfortable in his house, who are you whose kingdom is this that you're beautifying? Like if you can say I did it for God, all right, you can jump over your husband on that one. Your beauty is primarily for God, but on this earth it's primarily for him. Maybe secondarily for your kids. Who else is your beauty for? Strangers? Other men? Who are you trying to be sexy for? You don't give a crap about being sexy in that bedroom, so who are you being sexy for? What is this about? And so often, this woman's beautifying. She got in a fight with you, but she wanted to be able to put that beautiful picture up on Facebook to impress other women with. You know what that is? It's immaturity. That is a little girl behavior. A little girl, before she gets married, checks with other girls and says, am I beautiful? Do I know how to make things beautiful? And they check in with other women, primarily their mother. And if their mother's a healthy woman, she will selflessly say, you're doing a good job. You need to watch out for this. This is coming off the wrong way. And then send in front of dad to lock in the lesson. This is what it's for. Your beauty is for him. It's for God, be a worshiper, and it's for the man in your life. This is what it builds around. And if you don't understand that, then what happens? If the whole time your mom's also teaching, she doesn't really send you over to dad because she divorced him, and you're sitting alone in the house full of women, and the constant communication is we're beautiful for ourselves and for other women. But your beauty is made to be complimented. So where are you going to get the compliments from? Either from a constant conquest of men, and you're a you know what, Santa Claus, ho, 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 that's what you're doing over there, spreading it around. Or you're doing it to impress other women. And you know what the problem is with that? Women are competitive about that. You cannot, if you're beautifying your home for your man, and another woman goes over and goes, it's not my taste, you go, yeah, it's his taste. I'm doing this for him, and I'm killing it. He loves this house. That's how women used to be. I didn't do this because I liked it. I did it because I want to make this a haven. He built this for us. He paid for this. He bled for this. He protects us for this. And I come and I make it a place of worship and wonder and family and love. And this is what I built up for him. You easily see what he does for us. This is what I do for him. This is our marriage. So if another woman came into your house and didn't like it, you're like, whatever. You go over to her house, you go, oh, your husband's got crazy taste, but he's happy. Good job, girl. Fist bump. That's it. But when you're doing it for your to show off to other women, then it's never enough. It's competitive by nature. You know why? Because a woman can never be satisfied with another woman's that's great. You can have 100 when like watch this, when a woman's getting married, one thing she can't do with that wedding dress is show it to who? To the guy she bought it for. She can't show it to her husband. It's bad luck. And so she'll go and show it to one woman after another. It's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. It feels good temporarily, but it doesn't stick. Because what matters is the look in that dude's eyes when you're walking down the aisle towards him. That's what it's for. And we train little girls from a very young age to not give the gift to the one person she was created to give it to, the one person whose enjoyment will satisfy her giving, and be like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted out of this. Instead, we say, no, do this in such a foo-foo way that he kind of hates it to impress other women who also kind of hate it, because either it sucks and they're laughing at you, or it succeeds and they're envious and jealous of you and want to take you down. Why? Because women are naturally jealous of their home. They're naturally, you don't want another woman coming in there and messing your stuff up. So it's like, if you're not really, if you start smashing those worlds together, it's going to be a fight. They're not supposed to commingle like that. And so you'll end up like, I call it foo-foo, but it's like when women are they're over nesting, sometimes we'll say it, and you go, what is this for? And it's like, well, I could never impress my mom enough. I could never impress Facebook enough. I could never impress other women enough. I'm doing this to try to make myself feel like a woman. I'm just going to keep on doing this. It's like the thing that will make you feel like a woman is if you stop doing it for women and you started to do it for your man. And the moment he comes home and you see that look on his face, you will be satisfied. That's the one thing the world trains him not to do. It's the same thing for a man. He's over here in the wood shop working on his thing. Oh, I keep on using my strength. I'm going to go do Brazilian martial arts because one day this is going to make me feel like a man. The one thing that's going to make you feel like a man is go use your strength to support and bless your wife and kids. You are a real husband. You are a real father. You will feel like one. You'll find satisfaction in. Ultimately, the highest satisfaction, don't get me wrong, there's a tier above this where you use your strength for God, you'll feel like a man on another level. You use your beauty to worship God as a woman, it'll be on another level. But God is not going to be like, Danny, I love what you're doing with your strength over here while you're not taking care of your... It's not going to work that way. God's like, pour it into your wife. Pour it into your kids, and everything else will be blessed in the process. I will be able to build off that. There's no way that God's going to be like, Lizzie, I love what you're doing over here in your usurper kingdom. It's so beautiful. He'd be like, no, put that in service to your husband. Put it in service here, and then we can build something out of it. It's lawless here. It's not supposed to be in this position, and that's why Satan works so hard to pull us out of position. And the more we pretend, we can just take a modern idea and put it on marriage and it'll work. No, it won't. That's not what, there's no room in scripture for that idea of marriage. There is no room for it. If for no other reason than Jesus uses marriage as an image of our relationship with him. We can't say marriage is egalitarian. We can't say it's a democracy, because that's saying that the bride and the bridegroom operate the same way. We are equal to Jesus because the bride is his mom. I don't need you for anything. I can do it all myself. I can do it better than you, Jesus. I don't need you for anything. It doesn't work. We have to defile the theology to try to update the practice to the world's way. It's not supposed to work that way. And the fruit is all over. Look at the dumpster fires of marriage nowadays. It doesn't work this way. I understand it's terrifying to change it to fit what God says and what the scripture says. Watch out. I understand that that's terrifying. It is. Like I was saying, I don't think anybody jumps all the way in on the first time. But what you do is you begin to consciously look at it and say, where can I make a change to line up more with what God's saying and let him bear some fruit? And then you realize God's way is better than my way. At least right here. You're going to have a hard time believing it goes any further. But you're like, all right, you were right here. And you'll take it a step further. When I talk to women about submission, I don't say you need to submit to your wife and everything. That's what scripture says. I go, God's saying that's the best way. Anything else is below his will. It's sin. But I don't say that. I say, you obey your husband about anything? Most of them have to go, no, not really. In the world, like, no, I don't obey him. We agree about things. No, I'm not talking about you agreeing with him. I'm talking about you disagree with him. But he has the authority here. You obey him even though you disagree with him. And you're not rolling your eyes or waiting for it to fall down or giving him enough rope to hang himself. You are trusting he knows better than you, even though you disagree. And doing like this is training for God, right? God knows better. I don't get it. This is a cross. This doesn't seem like a good idea. But I trust he knows better than me and I obey. I'm not waiting for vindication for it to be proven that God's an idiot and I'm right. No, I'm trusting God that even though I don't understand it, this is what should be. Where is that obedience? Most women be like, I don't have any. Go do one thing. Find, ask God, where is one, highlight a place to me, God, where this man knows infinitely more about doing this than I do. He's better than me at it. And lead me in correct submission. Obey him in this one area and let it bear some fruit. Teach me what this feels like. Teach me what this tastes like. Teach me what this is. And if they will do that one thing, I guarantee you I can sign them up for two. I could sign them up for three things. Pretty soon, they could start out where, well, I'm aiming at 50-50. If I'm expecting him to obey me in a bunch of things, I should really be obeying him in a bunch of things. A lot of times they aim for the 50-50. By the time they get there, they go, forget this. I'm realizing that all this stuff I'm doing that he should be doing is smashing me. It's crushing me alive. And the more I let go and let him be the man, I can be the woman and I thrive and it's wonderful. And all of a sudden, it's like we all wake up to the same stupid realization where we go, it's better God's way. This is amazing. It's a blessing if I don't do it my way. If I just do it his way, it gets better. That's all that is. Again, a lot of times we have a mini kingdom as men of the idea of this physical protection, this monetary provision, and it's garbage. It really is. I'm not saying that there isn't obvious overlap there, but it's just so small. It's such a small idea nowadays because we even attacked that idea in the world. So now we have a lot of Christians and conservatives saying, yes, traditional values, the man protects and provides. It's like, that is not traditional. That's post-industrial. They didn't talk like that before the Industrial Revolution. It's only after they stuck guys in warehouses for 16 hours a day, 6 days a week with no vacation for the rest of their lives that they said, well, what does a man do now? It's like, well, he does two things. He brings home a paycheck. He comes home after the kids are in bed, eats a bowl of soup, trying not to fall asleep, and he lays down in bed, and then he gets up in the morning before anybody's awake. He goes to work again. What does this guy do? He brings home money. What else does he do? He at least indirectly provides protection. The landlord's not going to try to rape his wife because no matter how tired this guy is, he's jacked from working 16 hours a day and he will beat me to death when he finds out. So there is some passive protection that's not even visible that, oh, they're probably not going to mess with me because there's a man back there somewhere. And we pretended that that's not masculinity in the biblical sense. That's not what being a husband is. Through most of history, this would be a laughably weak idea of what being a man is. And it's only in modern times because we had an agenda. We need to turn men into factory machines for wealth in the West that we were willing to throw that away. And men were saying, I make more money in this factory than I ever made on the farm. My life is garbage. My family's falling apart, but I got money and my kids will grow up in a better place and he'll be a doctor and then his son will be a senator. And then one day we can put the family back together when we have enough money and we can own all our land and all this dream got forgotten 3 generations ago. Your kid's living in an apartment and he's a transgender that's cut off his own penis and you're like, well, how did this get here? Well, you just destroyed the family for no good reason. That's how it got there. That man was necessary. He was needed. And because he didn't believe what God said and because his wife didn't believe what God said, it was removed. And when the woman said, well, I could replace him. This is also what Satan's doing. We don't realize, oh, you just play way outside of the roles that God gave you. It's going to work out right. It doesn't. Every place you do that is a wound that is actively bleeding your marriage out. It's anemic and weak because you won't stop bleeding it. Put a tourniquet on that thing. Stop doing that to yourselves. Things will turn around. A man is called to provision, but in the literal sense of the word, provision, good vision. The main thing about being a provider biblically is that you have the big vision. You're looking out with God and you're figuring out where we're going as a family. You're seeing problems before they arrive. That's how you're a protector. It's mainly spiritual. It's mainly in the terms of consequence and wisdom that you're really going to do that. I know some ghetto dudes, and they have gotten in multiple fist fights for their kids. They're not good dads. They got pride issues and they're ready to throw down with her 14 different boyfriends she's had and fight for this and fight for that. It did not make them good dads. I know other dads, they've never had to get in any of those situations. They saw that crap coming 100 miles away. They stepped in and they changed a friendship for their kids. They stepped in and did this. They moved. We're changing schools. We're changing what you're teaching here. We're moving this around. That's provision. That's protection. It's being a leader. It's bigger than anything else could be. Here's the thing that we're called to do as men. We're called to have a vision for our family. We're called to meet God and get a vision for our family and then protect it and execute it. What that means is, as a man, you have a vision, the big picture. It also means you're prone to a certain kind of weakness. You know what it is? Details. Details. If you're being good at details, chances are you're in a mini kingdom because your vision should be too big for you to be able to chase down all the details. You're hiding from something if you can be detail oriented. You're being a perfectionist, you're hiding in something. You need to be handling all this. You don't have time for that. You got to delegate. You got to assign people. You got to handle things. Your weakness as a man is you're not good at the details because you're the big picture guy. You're the guy running the whole army. You can't be figuring out what's going to get cooked in the commissary on Tuesday. That's not your job. It's like the apostles saying, we cannot leave prayer and preaching the word to wait at tables. I'm like, I understand it's necessary, but we've been given leadership and we need to hold on to the vision of God for this people and move it forward. That's what you're supposed to be doing for your family. Now, what are women great at? Details. Women are like zip, they lock right onto something, and it's all the details that you could possibly ever want on it. In fact, their weakness is they get tunnel focused on something and they don't have balance in what they want to apply. They'll put 100% of the energy over here while the rest of the place is burning down. They're like, this victory doesn't even count anymore because they were sucked into this. You see how that fits together? God wants you to go and get the vision, and he wants you to carry it out, and he wants that woman to come alongside you and be the one that's going, you're missing these details over here. Don't forget this and don't forget that. Sometimes she's going to give that counsel. It's going to save your life. Sometimes she's going to give that counsel and you're going to go, babe, a little bit tunnel focus there. We can't invest that much over there. It's going to unbalance the whole vision. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to pass you up on that. And you know what? A healthy woman, it's just as satisfying if you give counsel and the man goes, okay, I'm not going to do exactly what you think is right. That's not even what counsel is supposed to be. I see the problem though, and I'm handling it. That's the desire of heart at the bottom of it, is simply that to be heard and to have the thing you're talking about be recognized. That's what a woman really wants from her husband. It's not necessarily obedience. That gets confused. Do what I want you to do. No, tell me that you see what I see and you got it so I can let it go. Now, what happens in most marriages? We were just talking about this earlier, where you're going to bed as a man and your wife comes and goes, blah, 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 5 different things that are stressing her out. Because what? She wants you to see the problem and say, I got it, babe. I got that. I'll handle that. So she can let it all go and go to bed. What happens to most men? They're like, finally I get the rest, and then bing, 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 bing. So stressed out now. Why did you do that right before I was going to go to bed? That's so screwed. Oh, I feel better. We could easily blame women for that situation, but I'm going to throw it back at us men. I don't think I got this on here right. It's just loosening up, I think. We have a great pulpit here at this church. Need to make a new one. Um, but here's the big issue with men. Number one, this I'm gonna tell you where we go wrong that sets us up for all this. Number one, we don't seek the full vision. There's a bunch of reasons why, but we don't do it. Sometimes we'll get a little partial vision, a little piece of a vision. We go, good, good, good. I can run with that. And we run right out. And a lot of times we're just not asking God. The other day, working on my car, just got it back from the shop. The AC wasn't working so great. And so me and Robert are out there recharging the AC. And in the meantime, something else goes wrong with the car. And it threw me. Like I was like angry and frustrated and I had all this stuff on me. And I had to stop and pray about it for a minute, like what's going on? And I felt responsible for something that was unfair that I was responsible for. Like I don't know anything about cars and I'm not made out of money. I don't have the money to pay someone who could really, I don't have the money to buy a car that doesn't need a lot of work. I don't have money to pay somebody for that amount of work. People are coming out and helping me out, and that's amazing. But now I feel like, man, am I allowing people to help me out on something that's a dud, and they're wasting their time and energy and money on something that I should have just said, forget it, throw it away. It's done. This car's a money pit or something. And ultimately, when I looked at that frustration, I can realize the only reason I'm struggling with all this is I don't have a clear enough vision of what God wants with this car. There's a part of me that said, well, of course we'll do this. After the last repair, of course we'll make the next repair. And it's probably true, right? Probably. But I don't know for a fact because I didn't go and check with God. And that left me vulnerable for the first thing to come along. And I'm super stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. Why? Because I'm not sure of my way, because I don't have a clear vision. You go to work and be like, I haven't really been praying about what I'm supposed to do with my business. I'm not completely clear. As long as nothing pops up, I know what I'm doing because I have a pattern that I'm used to day in and day out. But one little thing pops up and you don't have clarity of vision and it stresses you out. Why does it stress you out? Because you can't see details. If you don't know the broad strokes, then the details are overwhelming. This is what usually happens, is either that we don't have a clear vision, or even if we do have a somewhat clear vision, if we go out into the day and as the details pop up, if we do not decisively handle the decisions that are in front of us, I'm going to put that off. I'm going to allocate that to my wife. I'm going to ask my buddy to take care of this. If you're not walking that vision out by decisively making the decisions and handling the details as they pop up, those details will slowly build up until they drown you, until you're drowning in the details. And you're like, I'm not good at this. I can't see what I'm doing. It's too much. And what happens when you're drowning? Are you a good leader when you're drowning? No, you have only one goal, keeping your head above water. You will sacrifice everything for one more breath of air. You will sacrifice everything for one moment of peace as you come home at the end of the day. You're not on mission anymore. You don't care what you're doing to your wife and kids. You are fighting for a breath of air, and you will screw up your family and you will hurt your marriage because you did not deal with things correctly. If you are a man who said, my first priority is the vision of God. Secondly, it is to protect that vision of God. Third is to implement that vision of God as the situation pops up. I'm going to prayerfully and decisively make every decision that pops up. I'm not going to procrastinate and throw stuff into the corner until it builds up and falls over on top of me and starts drowning me. That's what we do. And then what happens? Let me ask you another question. How do you feel about water when you're drowning? So, delicious. I love showers. They're wonderful. And I love swimming and I love cold glass of water. No, you're drowning. You hate water. You're drowning on details. How do you feel about people bringing you details and counsel and information? How do you feel at the end of the day when you haven't dealt with your stuff and it's drowning you and your wife goes, hey, by the way, babe, forgot to tell you about the registration's due on the car. And you're like, oh, why do you tell me things that break my soul? She's doing her job. Maybe she's not even doing her job well. I'm not even saying it. But her job minimally is to get you the information, to give you details. Your problem isn't with her details. Your problem is you're just not handling details the way God wants you to. You're running from things instead of handling them. And I get it. Where I was talking about this the other day with Robert, you let stuff build up. Now you go, there's no way. It's a freaking mountain falling on me. And you just have to take a breath and say, God, how many things can I fix today? And he might go, 3. What are the 3? And he pulls 3 out of that pile and you make decisions for those 3 things. If you do that for a week, all of a sudden that mountain's gone. All of a sudden you can dig yourself out. And then here's some wisdom. Don't get yourself in that predicament again. Get the vision of God. Step into your day. When things pop up, either the vision speaks to it and you know what to do, or God gives you insight in the moment, or you go, I need to set some time apart today to pray about this and lock it in. What am I going to do with this? And God might say it's okay to put that off for tomorrow, but that's a decisive decision too. You're not letting stuff float. You let stuff float, you'll drown in it. And when you drown on details, it's not only that you're going to shut down your wife, you're going to get rid of all of your counselors. You're going to shut off all your sources of information. You're going to not even want to go back and look at the vision because that feels like more details. You're going to shut everything down. I don't want to see or hear anything. I'm already overwhelmed. And then what kind of leader are you? You're not any kind of leader. You're crashing the boat. And the more you screw it up, the less you want details about how it's getting screwed up. And it becomes a death spiral. You're circling the toilet. You have to get back into the place where I trust you, God, enough, even in this mess I've made out of things, to go and see what you want to do with my life. How am I supposed to lead this family, God, and get the vision back, and then to trust him in every detail and say, I'm going to handle them as it. What did Jesus say? He doesn't say you have to have a 5-year plan. He doesn't say you have to understand how you're going to get from this stage to this stage and how you're going to get in the house and how you're going to do this. He says each day has a worry enough of its own. Now, I'm not asking you to worry about tomorrow. I'm asking you to submit the decisions in front of you today to me, and I will do it. But you got to trust them enough to show up and do it. And if you put it off, you go, I just want to go to work, and I want to do my lawns, and I want to come home, and I want to sit in front of the TV. I don't want to make any decisions today. Well, okay, that vacation is going to cost you, though. Talk to God about whether you can afford the cost of pulling that kind of thing. And it's not going to be restful anyways. You think it's going to be a restful thing. It probably isn't. And if you do it one day, you're probably going to do it the next day. You put 3 days into that, and now you're drowning, and now you're closing your eyes and ears. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. You know what happens? You do that long enough, you go, I can't handle this life. Emotionally, I cannot handle everything that's happening to me. So, video games. Oh, this. I'm just going to focus on, I'm going to shrink my life down into this mini kingdom. I'm good at this one thing. And then you'll go hide there. And in the meantime, what happens to your marriage? What happens to your kids? What happens to your whole life outside of this little stupid thing you've decided to commit yourself to? This is passivity. This is I don't care. This is I take my hands off of it. You can't do that and have your marriage go anywhere it's supposed to go. As men, we and it's so hard. I do have a heart to feel. There's a lot of bad things that women are taught. They really screw things up. They really make it hard for a man to do the right thing. But honestly, what can they do if you're doing that? Like, as much as they're pouring gasoline on the fire, dude, the whole thing's burning down at this point anyway. We have to understand what God's doing with us better than that. We have to trust God more than that, that we're going to show up and say, God, what is the vision? And again, I'm not saying that God's going to give you every detail and you're going to have peace in the plan. That's not it. You're going to have peace in the fact of him, that he has the plan and that you know in this day what you're supposed to be doing. God is not asking for more than that. He's asking for you to make decisive decisions in this day based on what he has told you, what he's telling you. And if you don't know, your vision's incomplete, this side hit me from the side, then it is a priority for you to get alone with God, get in your car, roll up the windows and close your eyes and take a minute and connect with him enough to know, what do I do with this, God? Even if it's just putting it off for tomorrow, or we'll pray about it on lunch, or we'll pray about it when you get home. The thing you cannot do is say, I don't even know what I'm doing with this, but I'm pushing it away. Because you'll just keep pushing things away until your whole life is on the other side of a wall and you're in a little mini kingdom, and your passivity is the sin that will ravage your marriage. And that's what you can bring to the marriage to destroy it, is passivity and checking out. Your wife needs to see your strength there. And she's not treating you like a man and you're not showing up as a man, it's really hard to look very hard at that. I mean, she's a woman of God, maybe. She should be leaning on the Spirit a little bit to see what you really have inside. But if you're hiding what you have because you don't even believe you have it, you don't think you have the strength to do it, and you're not willing to let God stretch you to that place, then that's a really hard place to put her in, right? It just is. You won't have leadership in that situation. You'll have passivity. You'll be emotionally checked out. Usually, if you fill that stuff in with addictive behaviors, that many kingdoms gotta be intense to keep you occupied and distracted from all the things you're letting fall apart. Um, and it ultimately, that mini kingdom, that hobby, that whatever it is, it becomes your life, and family is on the outside. Your marriage is on the outside. It's a divorce of heart, is what it really is. What did I write here? Yeah. Now, as a woman, as a man's supposed to seek the vision, and he's supposed to be essentially a leader in the vision that God has, a woman is created to be a helpmeet. She's not designed to have her own vision. She is not designed to do these other things. As a woman, you are called to be a helpmeet. You're called to look at what the man is displaying and what he's bringing to the table and say, I see that complete in a completely different way than he does. I have insight that he does not have. I can come in and assist in an amazing way. And the danger of this ability is when you see that you can bring something different to the table. You can either see that as I can be a complement to this. I can make him better. I can make this better. I can improve this thing. Or you can look at it as competitive. I can beat him. I can take his place. I can replace him. I can do it better. Because the truth is, you cannot be a better man than your husband. That's not true. You can be a better wife than your husband. He's not good at being a wife. And it's a huge mistake when we equate the two as if they're the same thing. They're not the same thing. You're not going to handle it well without him being there. There is a blessing in being married that you don't want to forfeit over something that's silly. So we have the man brings the vision, the woman brings the detail, the man brings the leadership, she brings the counsel, the man brings survival into a situation, a woman brings enjoyment into it. The man rescues, saves, liberates, a woman beautifies and fills with hope and joy and these wonderful things. Together they can build a life. Either one of them by themselves, and there's going to be a huge component missing from it. Now, a woman is supposed to be submissive in the fact that she's supposed to come alongside and serve what is already there. She's not supposed to be initiating it in herself. She's supposed to be coming alongside with that, what your husband is doing, and making it better, and opening the door for that. Um, she's supposed to be the helpmeet, but what often the enemy is tempting her to do is to look at this situation through a modern lens, which is the modern lens is literally the mantra is I can do anything a man can do and I can do it better. And if you literally are thinking that on some level, that it would be shameful, in fact, to even admit to yourself, let alone to another woman, that he is better than me here. He can do something that I can't do, or he can do it better than I can, is like anathema to the modern woman. And so what does that mean? If she can do everything that he can do but better, is she a helpmate? No. He's the helpmate. At best he's redundant, right? But he's worse than redundant, because it's not only is it redundant, I can do everything you do, I can do it better. You're the less good backup for her in that situation if you're the man. If she really believes that's true, then you are like the understudy. She's Laurence Olivier and you're Fred from the community theater. If Laurence Olivier is throwing up, then I guess you can cook dinner tonight, but it's going to be garbage. And if you sweep the floor, I'm going to have to come back and sweep it again. If you got to watch the kids because I have diarrhea, then you can watch the kids, but you're not going to do it right. And that's the message. That's the situation that's being created mentally by that idea. It's a terrible idea. He's the sucky backup, covers for her, but she's going to have to go over and do it. He's a man child, underfoot, kind of annoying. And then what does the woman do? She builds her kingdom, but it's lackluster. It's a counterfeit kingdom. It doesn't feel good. Just like the man's mini kingdom. The video games don't really feel good. It's a distraction. It's an addiction. He's got to fill it with things that feel like his wife enjoying it, but it isn't really. And in the same way, she's got to fill her kingdom with things that have the appearance of her doing her job, but it isn't the reality. She's beautifying the house. We got to redo the bathroom. We already did it once. No, we got to remodel it again. We got to redo this. We got to do that. We're going to have a big party. We're going to invite everybody over, and you're going to dress in a tuxedo, and I'm going to wear this, and we're going to do that. And what is it? There's a constant attempt to beautify, but because it's in her kingdom, it doesn't satisfy. It's addictive. It's always got to get bigger. I got to really make these women jealous. And when I make everybody else jealous, then it'll finally satisfy me. But it's not going to satisfy because it's not for the right person. The man's out there, he's trying to do bigger and better. I'm going to conquer, we're going to take over this company. I'm going to have the biggest business in the state. And it's like, but you didn't give any of your strength to your wife or your kids. It's never going to feel good. It's never going to feel good. It's never going to satisfy. It's a drug. It's an escape. It's not a reality. It's not an achievement. It's just an illusion of one. She beautifies, but it's to adorn her kingdom, which is growing ever less mini. It's actually growing to be the full. It's taking it over. She pushes her passive husband out of the way. She beautifies for other women, and then it becomes competitive. She's got to keep up with the Smiths next door. She's got to do this thing. These are incredibly common problems in marriage. They're not obvious at first. They're not things you're necessarily going to see and go, oh, it's a horrible problem. It is, though. It will change your marriage just to do that one thing. Figure out what the places are and fill them. Honor the other person. Don't, even if they're not sitting in their seat, keep it vacant. Make room for them to be able to step up into the position in the marriage they're supposed to be in. And don't be so much focused on how you're being treated in the situation. Don't be looking at the speck in their eye and going, oh, look at you. This is Jesus's principle. Look at your eye. Don't try to fix her until you fix you. Don't try to fix him until you fixed you. That's where God wants you to be. Look at yourself. Again, we can look at our, if you're the husband, you can look at yourself and say, am I acting like the man? Am I being strong? Am I giving strength to the people God has given me and made me responsible for? How angry can I be at her for not treating me like a man if I'm not really acting like one? I'm not saying she should. She should, because that's the covenant you're in. But how tempting it is. How much temptation have you put in her path to see you the wrong way if you're not doing that? And then you got to look at her and say, am I treating her like the lady that she is? How can I expect the rose to bloom if I treat it like a trash can? I got to love, I got to take care of this woman if I want her to blossom. She needs me to take care of her, even if she won't admit it. And I need to step up and do it, even if she's not going to let me know that she needs me. And that's what I need. She's not taking care of my needs. Do it. There's no, she's not doing her in, so I don't get to do. That's not how marriage works. As a woman, you got to be acting yourself. Am I acting like a lady? Or am I acting like a man competing for my husband's kingdom? Because he's probably going to end up treating you like an enemy if you're trying to steal his kingdom and steal his crown and geld him and send him to the kiddie table. He might start looking at you like an enemy if you're doing that, because it's an incredibly treacherous thing to be doing to him. That's not right. I don't care that the whole world says it's empowering. Maybe it is, but it's not your power to steal. And God's not on your side, and it's sinful and wrong. That's why your conscience feels like crap about it. And you just need to repent and say, I'm not going to be that kind of wife. It's not right. It's not what a wife's supposed to do. Look at yourself and say, am I acting like the lady that I should be? Am I being a wife? And then you can look at yourself and say, am I treating this man like he's the man that he is? Maybe right now he's in a hole and God's digging something out of him. Maybe he's acting like a little tiny boy. But what do I want to do to him? You know why he's acting like a little tiny boy? Because the father and the mother treated him like garbage when he was that age. And they made him doubt that he would ever have the strength to stand. He's fighting to be a better man. And he's trying to get there. So what do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of woman his mother should have been and stand by him? Or do you want to be a repeat of the woman that she was and tear him down for struggling, for being imperfect in a broken world? You want to be his cheerleader, or you want to throw rotten cabbages at him? How does it serve you to sabotage the man who's running the kingdom you tied yourself to? You're not going to get another one. We have to start looking at this thing for what it is. Sometimes I think it helps. Most of the questions I'm asking, am I behaving like a man? Am I treating her like a lady? Those are good questions to ask in the middle of a situation where you're probably not. You stop and go, wait, what am I doing? I want to throw out a few questions, though, that are just good when you're not fighting, to go and talk with your wife. Maybe you listen to this. Go talk to your spouse, talk to your husband when you look at this stuff and you want to dig in deeper. Here's some questions that you can ask. I'm going to start with the wife. She could ask these questions towards her husband. What have I beautified lately that has blessed you? Where have I blessed your kingdom? Truly. Where have I done that? It's not a test. I know how we want to do it. We want to say, did you notice everything I did for you? That's not what this is. This isn't, have you noticed everything I've done for you? This is, how much of what I've done for you actually worked? How good of a job am I really doing on this? So to ask him how much, like, this is the purpose of what I bring to this marriage, is I make life worth living in this place. How have I done that lately? Can you talk to me about something that I've done that has beautified and enriched your life with the beauty of my presence, what I'm doing out here, who I'm being, encouragement, a hug, even, it could be anything, but make cleaning up the house, could be anything. And I want you to be open-minded as when you're going to your husband, that your whole life you've been looking at beauty from a woman's angle, but the beauty you've been given is in service to him. He doesn't see it the way that you do. You're supposed to be learning how to be beautiful for him. You're supposed to be learning how to beautify your home for him. And you might be way off on what you're doing. You might be in foo-foo land, and he's like, this is annoying, actually. This is a burden to me. It's not good. I don't want to go through a bead curtain to get in here. I don't want 40 pillows on my bed. I don't want my bathroom to strangle me with floral aromas, I don't want little soaps I can't use. I don't know what, it could be anything. But to figure that I don't want to have to take down something, open a hutch to see my TV, it could be 100 different things. It looks great, but babe, I'm not into it, That should be a conversation. So ask that first question. How have I beautified your life lately that has blessed you? And then I know everybody's going to want to do the follow-up kit. Did you notice this? Did you notice this? No, you didn't notice? Just throw it away. That's done. The second question I would have you ask is, what else needs it? Where is my beauty lacking? Where am I not showing up? Where is your life gray or empty and it needs a woman's touch? Where is a place where I'm leaving you alone, where you need me, where you need encouragement, where you need some love, where you need a hug, where you need me to come along and rub your shoulders at the end of the day? Where could I be that breath of life in our marriage that it's missing? And I wouldn't have a million answers to these. I might have 2, 3 answers at most for any of these questions. Point out, okay, this would be nice. I think a really useful thing sometimes to say is, these are my needs, and give 3 needs. This is what I really need from you every day. And then say, and these are 3 things that would be really nice. You don't have to do it, but it would really bless my socks off if every once in a while you did one of these. And then maybe 3 things, this is a no-no. I'm not saying that I'm commanding you not to do it, but man, it's probably going to set me off if you do. It's going to be real. You're going to be tempting and pushing me if you do this. If you did those three things, these are needs. These are like necessities. If you don't do these, there's going to be a problem. I'm going to be without. It's like food. You forgot to, if we forgot to feed our kid for a day, it wouldn't kill him, but it would be it would be bad. We can't repeat that. So here's the things that I need from you in the day. Here's the things that would be nice, that would bless me, that would let a good free will offering on top to let you know that let me know that you love me and you're going the extra mile. And then here are things that are just, can you please avoid this at all costs? If possible, can you avoid doing this? It just nails on a chalkboard. Hopefully I outgrow it, but it's really hard for me to handle this particular thing. So that would all basically fall, you could do those kinds of questions you could do on both sides. But let me finish this for the wife's checkup with the husband. What have I beautified lately that's blessed you? What else needs it? What's foo-foo? I use foo-foo to explain when a woman is beautifying something for herself or for other women, and it's actually so over the top because it doesn't have satisfaction in a man liking it that it strangles men. It gets weird. You're like, I don't like this. Why are there 40 dolls in our bedroom? I don't like nutcrackers. Why are they in my house? And there's, maybe hitting a butt nerve there, but but there should be a conversation. I'm not saying like you're not gonna like everything your wife. She's got to have stuff for herself too. Don't get me wrong. But overall, her goal is for her. It'd be like if you were using your strength. You're like, I'm earning money. I'm doing all these things so I can work on the trains in my basement. At some point, the woman will be like, it's okay for you to have trains in the basement. It's not okay for 90% of you to go into that because it should be coming into this marriage. In the same way, it's okay for a woman to have some things that's beautiful for her. She feels cute in that dress or something like this, but it shouldn't come at the cost of her primary purpose of the beauty that she's been given, which is to be the breath of life in you, to be this beautiful picture of the love of God pouring into your life in skin and hair and everything else that she is. Just this gorgeous thing, right? So I think there's a need for to say, where's the foo-foo at? And for you to go, what is that? Like, just like, what is this going on? Why do you behave this way? It's not necessarily all interior design stuff. That's just an easy pointer. But there could be things like, why are we doing this? Like there's a time I talked to my wife and go, why are we going on these big, and this is like very early in our marriage, why are we going on these big anniversary things? We go on a big anniversary thing. We have to go out to the big steakhouse and we got to go get the cheesecake after. We got to walk on the beach and I got to wear clothes I hate and you feel uncomfortable in your clothes. We got to take 40 pictures for Facebook. Who are we doing this for? It's not for me, and I don't think it's even for you. Who are we doing this for? That's foo-foo. That's something where we somehow got into this place that we're doing this for someone else. And it's like, no, we're doing it for God and we're doing it for our marriage. But everything else, that they're never going to be cheering for us. Why? Because it's us, it's not them. It have to be a very godly person to really have enough free time to be like, man, I'm really thinking about them and how well they're doing in them. It's just not something that most people who've seen your pictures on Facebook are not going, what an anniversary, guys. Did you say the trip to the beach? Woo! I'm so glad I'm there, friend. Like, no. They're either a little bit jealous or they go, oh, whatever. It means it's nothing worth investing any of your time and energy to. The only reason why, as a woman, you're being pulled to that is because you're not taking it to the right place. If you were taking your beauty to God, if you were taking your beauty to your husband, you would be satisfied. You would not have this emptiness where I can't be beautiful enough. I can't make things in my life beautiful enough. And it's just this desperation. It's because you're taking it to the wrong people. If you centered around what really mattered, it would solve itself. The last question I would ask, and this is probably the most profound question, probably the hardest to answer, would be for the wife to ask her husband, where am I pulling back? I said succeeding from the Union. In the Confederate War, the Civil War, they tried to succeed from the Union. We're going to go start our own country. We're going to be the Confederates. Not making an insinuation about slavery. That's the imagery, right? But to ask your husband, where am I pulling away to make my own thing? It's not yours anymore. I'm taking a part of our marriage and I want to be the leader. And he might be like, with the kids here, you're pushing me out. Bedtime, you have this routine and you're just a Nazi about it. And you just, if I try to get in there, if I try to change anything, you're just like, I want to put the kids to bed my way. I have a way of doing it. And you're like, well, I'm the dad and I would like to be able to put my kids to bed and have a story time or something. You have a routine here. And in theory, you're doing it under my authority. In reality, you don't take a correction, you won't change anything, and when you do, you're rolling your eyes and acting like I'm stepping on your shoes and like, babe, this is my thing. I gave this to you because obviously I'd be stupid to not recognize that you're better than this, better at this than me. That does not mean you own it as a separate kingdom and that you can push me out like I'm not wearing the crown that God gave me in this marriage. I have every right to be in there. And I need to feel it. I need to feel like I belong there. It needs to be clear because anything else is disrespectful. You want to blow up your marriage with your husband, just keep being disrespectful to him because it poisons every drop of love. You can be sweet as molasses the rest of the time. You're spitting in his face when it comes to respect. Your love has been desecrated. It doesn't taste like, it just tastes like pity to him. It's like she hates me, she disrespects me. Sometimes she feels sorry for me and she's nice to me. That's all that's getting through on the communication line that way. And you might not see it all the time. You need to ask him, where am I stealing your throne in our marriage right now? Where am I taking over and pushing you out? And ask that of God too. You might not see it all, but asking your husband's a good place to start. Let me flip it around and give it the man's version, the husband asking his wife. Ask your wife this: where is my strength saving us? Where is my strength coming in and strengthening? Where do you feel safe because I'm doing the right thing for us? I'm bringing safety, I'm bringing security. That's usually how strength communicates to women. Not always. But you feel confidence, you can spread your wings because you don't have to worry about this stuff because I got it. Where is that happening in our marriage? Again, temptation is, let's see if you can notice all the places I'm bleeding for you. Don't do that. You might be bleeding in areas that are stupid. You need to look and ask, where are the places that I'm trying for you that you've noticed that it actually matters, where I'm getting a return on my investment. God might tell you other things and they don't see it, and that's fine. Keep doing what God's telling you to do. This is just a check-in for your marriage to help you get a better picture, help you hear God on things you might not want to hear. So say, babe, where am I coming through for you? Where am I giving strength to us? The second question is, where do I need to? Where am I leaving you hanging? Where am I being passive? Where am I checked out? Where do you need strength? Where do you feel like you are on your own and you're alone and it's scary in our marriage because I'm not showing up? She needs to feel safe to answer these questions too. That's not obvious. The third one is man's version of foo-foo, which is, what's macho wacho? That's my best attempt at male foo-foo. Male foo-foo is when a man is doing something masculine and it isn't for the sake of God or his wife or even his kids. It's for the sake of his ego. He's got some giant chopper, or he's doing jujitsu, or he's working out in the gym and getting all ripped and doing all this stuff. And it has nothing to do with bringing strength to the people who it is owed to, that he's responsible for. It's everything to do with ego and making himself feel better about himself. And it might be your mini kingdom over here. It's all about you. Your strength is all about making you feel better. Just like a woman who's beautifying for the sake of her ego, she's getting her lips pumped up until they're about to burst, thinking she's beautiful. And what? She just can't stop. It's a drug. This same man over here taking steroids till his testicles turn into BBs and he has acne all over. He's one giant zit. These things happen because people are trying to give their gifts someplace they feel safe, but it's the wrong place and it'll never satisfy. Your strength is not for you to pour back on yourself. That might feel titillating for the moment, but it is not going to satisfy. It's like pornography. That's never going to get you to a place where you feel like a man for more than 10 seconds and then hours of shame afterwards. If you want that to be in the right place, you got to take it to the right place. The first place your strength goes is to God, but secondly, in a very real, that God does this a lot. We can put God up here and say your strength belongs to God. That can be an escape to avoid the place where you can really see whether you're doing it or not. It's easy to fake this. This is real when you're giving it to your wife and your kids. You're not going to be able to hide from that. And that's what you need to do in that place. So what's macho wacho? Where am I using my strength and it's just for myself? And lastly, where am I hiding? Where am I checking out? Where am I succeeding? It's not succeeding from the union. You're just abandoning the throne. You know, where am I just leaving you high and dry? It's an important thing. Um, Let me ask you guys where we want to go with this. It'd be interesting. I can go into the next part. I can save some. A lot of the stuff is pretty obvious after that one. That's the meat of it's really there. But we could talk about um, some of the rest of these things. Or I was saving this last little bit for the last bit, but I could do it now. I could also give a word on the marriage bit, like sex in a marriage and how that's important. Got a really good one on that one, but we could save it for last, but we might run out of time for it. Probably are. You can vote silently. You could just raise a hand if you want to talk about sex, and then they won't know whether it is, but they will because they'll see what I do. You want me to do the song? Do 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 do.
What's the first topic?
Well, I can try to like go through the rest of the sermon and hit all those points and throw this on the end, but I think I'm going to run out of time. So I'm probably going to cut that part.
Yeah.
Or I can do this part first, and we have any time to throw anything else on, I will. We can talk about all this after, anyways. But what do you want right now?
Yeah.
Both hands. Both hands in the air. I'm seeing now. I'm stretching. I'm just breathing. I just gotta. Yeah. Yeah. And they both raise their hands and then run out of the room. There's some psychology there. Robert has the smallest bladder in history, but I know. There's not a lot of privacy, so be careful back there. Turn the fan on or something. Oh, one last thing on this, which was kind of an. There is coffee in there. Yeah. Yeah. There's cups. Oh, you got one. The milk's in the fridge. You know where it all is. One last question before we move on to the marriage bed stuff is, which I think is a good one, is to ask yourself, if you're the wife, you can ask yourself, where does my strength, where does my security come from? And if the answer isn't God directly, or it should be more often even your husband, then wherever it is going, I'm getting strength from this money I'm saving up. I get strength from, I feel safe because I can always call my dad, those are where you're cutting that out of your relationship with your husband. You're giving it to someone else, but it's a good way to like locate them. The opposite for the man would be, where am I bringing beauty and satisfaction and enjoyment into my life that isn't God or my wife? So sometimes it'll be like, oh, TV, I'm watching TV and I'm doing this, and pornography's one, like all those kinds of things. Like I'm bringing beauty, enjoyment into my life, but it's not through the root of my wife or my God. God is on top of that. But anyways, another thing to throw in. Let's talk about the marriage bed. Delicately, I try to. It's awkward.